More than 281,000 new voters register for the next general election. Election Commission pushes the deadline for registration to November 21. Nepal government introduces 2 new savings bonds with 5-year term to raise government debt aimed at both domestic investors and Nepalese working abroad. At least 9 killed and 32 others injured in a blast in Srinagar, Kashmir. Incident comes just days after car bomb in Delhi. Pakistan Parliament passes a controversial constitution amendment granting army chief lifetime immunity from prosecution. Critics call the move autocratic. And Lionel Messi at his brilliant best as Argentina beats Angola 2-0 in a friendly, scored his 115th international goal. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai and this is NTV World Primetime News coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours. Across the globe, it's 1:15 p.m. in London, 10:15 p.m. in Tokyo, and just after midnight in Sydney. And now the news in detail. Nepal's election authorities say more than 281,000 new voters have registered since the announcement of the next general election scheduled for March 5, 2026. The surge follows a major change in the registration system. Citizens can now enroll using their national identity cards, which carry biometric data, including photographs and fingerprints. Officials say the new process has significantly reduced paperwork and wait times, prompting a sharp rise in online applications nationwide. Prime Minister Sushila Karki had urged the Election Commission to extend the registration deadline, citing overwhelming public interest and technical bottlenecks in several districts. The Commission has now pushed the deadline to November 21. Election officials acknowledged that heavy online traffic caused intermittent server failures in some areas. They say additional technical support has been deployed to ensure uninterrupted access for new voters. As of November 15, more than 50,000 men, 30,000 women and 4 others have registered using national ID cards. This has brought total new registrations to 281,129 since the election date was declared. Voter enrollment continues nationwide. Now, China's ambassador to Nepal, Chen Song, says Beijing will provide every possible support to ensure Nepal's general elections set for March 5, 2026 are carried out smoothly. Speaking to editors in Kathmandu, he said progress is steady across China-Nepal cooperation, including trade, investment and projects under the Belt and Road Initiative, although some delays are not unusual. Chen highlighted China's new 5-year plan, saying it aligns with Nepal's development needs and includes measures to open the Chinese market to Nepali agricultural goods, now in the final stages. He reiterated China's backing for Nepal's political stability and thanked Kathmandu for its long-standing One China policy. The ambassador added that both countries continue to coordinate at the United Nations and that newer political movements in Nepal should be viewed in their national context, focused on better governance. Moving on, Nepal has introduced 2 new savings bonds to raise government debt aimed at both domestic investors and Nepalese working abroad. The Public Debt Management Office has issued the Citizen Savings Bond 2087 worth 2.5 billion rupees and a Foreign Employment Savings Bond worth 500 million rupees. Both have a 5-year term with annual interest rates of 6.5 and 7.5%. Applications are open until 11th of December through the government's online investor portal. Officials say demand is already strong. 800 million rupees worth of applications arrived in just 4 days. The bonds can be traded easily, converted to cash at any time, and used as collateral for bank loans. Now, Hong Kong has officially lifted its long-standing transit visa requirement for Nepali passport holders, a rule that had been in place since 2005. The change comes into effect today, allowing Nepali travelers to transit through Hong Kong International Airport without a visa, provided they remain in the transit area. Nepal's Consulate General in Hong Kong says the move follows sustained diplomatic engagement and is expected to significantly ease travel for Nepalese flying to and from third countries via Hong Kong. In a statement, the consulate welcomed the decision as a commendable step that will boost mobility and further strengthen Nepal-Hong Kong ties. And we'll take a short break here. After the break, more news from Nepal and around the world. Stay with us. watching NTV World. Welcome back to Primetime News. The United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP30, is currently underway in Belém, Brazil, bringing together world leaders, negotiators and stakeholders to tackle the escalating climate crisis. This year's conference is being closely watched as it coincides with the 10th anniversary of the Paris Agreement, with the world still struggling to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Countries on the front line of climate impacts, like Nepal, are calling for urgent action on climate finance, including predictable, grant-based funding for adaptation and loss and damage, as well as measures to protect vulnerable ecosystems such as mountains and forests. What sets this COP apart is the heightened urgency, recent extreme weather events, rising losses and slow progress on climate commitments have created pressure for tangible action rather than long-term pledges. Delegates are expected to move from discussion to implementation with a strong focus on equity, transparency and measurable outcomes. Now, high on Nepal's agenda at the COP30 is urgent climate finance, including grant-based support for adaptation and loss and damage, including protection of mountain ecosystems and promoting climate justice. Nepal is also pushing for operationalizing the Barbados implementation mechanism and advancing measurable adaptation indicators. To shed further light on this, we will shortly have a conversation, in a short while in fact, with a delegation from Nepal that has gone to COP30. For now, moving on to other news, political tensions are intensifying in Nepal's Madhya province, where the deputy speaker held an assembly session in the courtyard today amid a deepening dispute over the chief minister's appointment and the expulsion of lawmakers. Babita Raut Ishar convened the meeting after a request from the Nepali Congress, saying a motion accusing the speaker of misconduct has been filed and must proceed within 7 days. She warned that operating without staff is hampering all assembly functions. Earlier, protests erupted as 7 parties rallied against Speaker Ramchandra Mandal, who expelled 5 lawmakers for repeated absence. The crisis, in fact, follows the controversial hotel-based swearing-in of UML leader Saroj Yadav as chief minister, an appointment now being challenged before Nepal's Supreme Court. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Authority, NDRRMA, has reported a nationwide rise in fire incidents with the onset of the dry season. From November 10 to 14, fires have been reported across multiple districts. Large quantities of property have been damaged, with authorities attributing most incidents to public negligence and carelessness and urging citizens to exercise caution. The authority continues to remind the public to remain vigilant and take safety precautions. Now, pigeon feeding is banned in many parts of the world. However, Nepal is one of the exceptions, and pigeon lovers here are happy for these opportunities. In cities like Venice and Singapore, feeding pigeons is prohibited, and in Mumbai, India, it is a topic of debate. But in Nepal, you can enjoy this practice freely. Almost all of the country's religious and cultural heritage sites have spaces for feeding pigeons. For instance, at Kathmandu's Patan Darbar Square, visitors of all ages flock to feed the birds. In Hinduism, as described in the Mahabharata, pigeons are considered symbols of peace, harmony and prosperity. For many tourists from the Western world, feeding pigeons is also seen as an expression of kindness. Pigeons are not only a cultural symbol but also have a regional significance. The emblem of SAARC, the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, includes pigeons, reflecting the bird's importance both culturally and diplomatically. In Nepal, feeding pigeons is more than just a pastime. It is a cherished tradition that connects culture, religion and community. Now, in the Himalayan foothills of Nepal, a forgotten trekking route is coming back to life. As new roads and development reshape the famous Annapurna circuit, hikers are turning to a quieter alternative connecting Kaski and Myagdi districts. The trail winds through remote villages across the panoramic ridge of Pun Hill and down to Ghampas, a corridor untouched by motor roads. Local guides say this path preserves the classic Nepal trekking experience, the rhythm of village life, sweeping mountain vistas, and the sense of being truly off the beaten track. Nearly 100 trekkers a day are now discovering this slower, more intimate way to explore the Himalayas, a reminder that some of the region's old-world charm is still alive. Nepal's Rautis, a nomadic and highly marginalized community, are facing a steep population decline. A recent study by the National Human Rights Commission shows their numbers have dropped from 149 in 2018-19 to just 135 today. Over the past 6 years, 46 community members have died, while only 37 children were born. The report cites lack of state support, limited access to healthcare, malnutrition, and inadequate reproductive services as key factors driving the decline. Human rights experts warn that without urgent intervention, the survival of the Rautis, a unique nomadic people, remains at risk, highlighting the broader challenges faced by marginalized communities in Nepal. We now connect to the lead of Nepali delegation at COP30, Dr. Maheshwar Dhakal, who is also Senior Joint Secretary at the Ministry of Forest and Environment, who is currently in Belém, Brazil. Mr. Dhakal, welcome to NTV World Primetime News. Mr. Dhakal, if you can hear me, what are the latest updates from Nepal's delegation at COP30? Mr. Dhakal, am I audible to you? If you can hear me, Mr. Dhakal, first of all, welcome to NTV World Primetime News. And we also are anticipating and expecting a lot of developments from the conference that's happening in Brazil, Belém. If you can hear me, could you please give us some updates from what's happening in there and any developments from the Nepali delegation at the event? Well, Nepali delegation, like previous times, have reached Belém, Brazil, and this year's COP, the Climate Change Conference by United Nations, is being held in Brazil, Belém, and Nepali delegation is representing the government agendas, especially the mountain agenda when it comes to climate change, as one of the victims, as one of mountain nations that have been victims despite being the least polluter in the world. And our delegation is also in the table discussing what can be done globally, what global leaders, especially the polluting countries, can do together in solidarity so that we all can together cope with the impacts of climate change. And our delegation is in Belém, Brazil, to discuss and put on table Nepal's issues and the issues of many mountain nations. that have bore the brunt of climate change and global warming, especially considering the elevation-based warming that we have to witness as our mountains are not seeing as much of snow these time, and also the biodiversity is being affected due to climate change. In fact, all these sectors, there's overarching impact of climate change, and that is what is on the table, in fact. And one of the main agendas at COP is from around 10 years. It's the mountain agendas and also climate finance. And to tell more on this and about Nepal's agendas at the event this year in Brazil, Belém, we're joined by Joint Secretary at the Ministry of Forest and Environment, Mr. Maheshwar Dhakal. If you can hear me, first of all, welcome to NTV World Primetime News. Dr. Dhakal, if you can hear me, could you please give us some updates about what is happening at COP30 and what agenda is Nepal government putting on the table? Well, we tried to connect to Joint Secretary at the Ministry of Forest and Environment, Dr. Maheshwar Dhakal, to tell us what's happening at COP30 and what agendas Nepal has been putting on the table, as there are many impacts that our country has been facing and like other countries have also been facing. We'll try and connect with him in the remaining hour, but for now, moving on to other news. Kathmandu is moving to expand citywide surveillance as it partners with Nepal Telecom to build the network needed for new CCTV systems across the capital. City officials say the collaboration will use Nepal Telecom's optical fiber and FTTH infrastructure to link cameras installed in all ward offices directly to central monitoring rooms. Under the agreement, Nepal Telecom will handle network maintenance, emergency service continuity and technical support, while the metropolitan city will supply the hardware, including cameras and routers. Officials say the move is part of Kathmandu's push to become a safer and smarter city through stronger interagency coordination and modern technology. This is NTV World and you're watching Primetime News. We're going for a short break and we'll come back with more from the international front. Do stay tuned. In a tragic accident in Srinagar, Kashmir, 9 people have been killed and 32 others injured after a stockpile of confiscated explosives detonated at the Naogam police station. Officials say the blast occurred late at night around 11:20 p.m. local time while police were examining the explosive materials. The region's Director General of Police, Nalin Prabhat, described it as a very unfortunate mishap during handling. The explosion caused severe damage to the police station and nearby buildings, adding to the chaos. Authorities are investigating while emergency teams continue to aid the injured. This devastating incident comes just days after a car bomb in Delhi, which the Indian government has classified as a terror attack, highlighting ongoing security concerns in the region. In Pakistan, the parliament has passed a controversial constitutional amendment granting Army Chief Field Marshal Asim Munir expanded powers and lifetime immunity from arrest or prosecution. The 27th Amendment, signed into law on Thursday, also brings major changes to the functioning of the country's top courts, a move critics say edges Pakistan closer to autocracy. Supporters argue the changes provide administrative clarity for the armed forces and help ease judicial backlogs. But Pakistan's military has long wielded enormous influence, sometimes directly seizing power and at other times pulling strings behind the scenes. Under the new law, Munir, who has served as Army Chief since November 2022, will now oversee the Navy and Air Force, further consolidating military authority in the nuclear-armed nation. And back in India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party is celebrating a landslide victory in the northern state of Bihar. Modi's alliance captured 202 of the 243 seats, marking a record-breaking win in the state. Modi described the outcome as not just a win for his alliance, but a victory for democracy itself. The election came after a controversial revision of voter lists, which opposition parties claimed excluded genuine voters to benefit the BJP, allegations that the party and India's Election Commission have denied. Analysts say the Bihar results may set the stage for next year's key state elections in West Bengal, Kerala and Tamil Nadu, where the BJP faces stronger resistance and has struggled to gain traction. We'll go for another short break here. Coming up next is Sports Update and more. Welcome back to NTV World Primetime News. China has completed the first phase of its 6G technology trials, developing more than 300 key technologies, the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology has said. The country has been conducting 6G trials for 4 consecutive years, advancing research on system design and network architecture, according to Vice Minister Zhang Yunmin. 6G, the next generation global digital network, is expected to integrate communications, sensing, computing and intelligence. Its services will expand from people, machines and goods to intelligent agents, with operations extending from ground networks to space-air-ground coverage, enabling intelligent interconnection and rapid development of digital twins. Paniz Faryousefi has made history as Iran's first female philharmonic conductor. The 42-year-old stepped onto the podium at Tehran's Wahdat Hall to lead the Tehran Symphony Orchestra, delivering a powerful performance before a packed audience. Her appearance marks a rare breakthrough for women in a country where public and professional life is heavily restricted. Trained as a violinist, Faryousefi has long been a prominent figure in classical music, performing internationally and serving as a concertmaster. Her leadership of the orchestra is both a personal triumph and a symbolic victory for Iranian women in the arts. Time now for Sports Update. Nepal's biggest and most prestigious cricket tournament, the Nepal Premier League NPL, is set to begin this Monday at the TU Cricket Ground in Kirtipur. Nepal's Cricket Association, CAN, says all preparations are complete for the second edition of the league, which will feature top national and international players. For the first time, matches will be played under floodlights, allowing for day-night games at the newly renovated stadium, with improved parapets, is ready to host the league's excitement. 8 franchises, including defending champions Janakpur Bulls, runners-up Sudur Pashchim Royals, Karnali Yaks, Pokhara Avengers, Viratnagar Kings, Chitwan Rhinos, Kathmandu Gurkhas and Lumbini Lions will compete in 32 matches, starting with Janakpur Bulls facing Kathmandu Gurkhas at 4 p.m. on Monday. Tickets range from 500 to 2,000 rupees and CAN expects the tournament to generate over 400 million rupees. International broadcasting will be available via Star Sports, while digital streaming will be accessible through Dish Home Go, bringing Nepalese cricket to fans across South Asia. Football icon Lionel Messi was at his brilliant best as Argentina beat Angola 2-0 in an international friendly in Luanda on Friday. Messi created the opener in the 44th minute, threading a pass to Lautaro Martinez, who finished past the goalkeeper. Later, around the 82nd minute, Martinez returned the favour, assisting Messi, who curled a low shot into the far corner to seal the win. The victory marked Messi's 115th international goal in 196 appearances as he continues his quest for a 6th World Cup next year. The match also celebrated Angola's 50th independence anniversary at the National Stadium in the capital. Before wrapping up, let's take a look at the headlines once again. More than 281,000 new voters register for the next general election. Election Commission pushes the deadline for registration to November 21. Nepal government introduces 2 new savings bonds with 5-year term to raise government debt aimed at both domestic investors and Nepalese working abroad. At least 9 killed and 32 others injured in a blast in Srinagar, Kashmir. Incident comes just days after car bomb in Delhi. Pakistan Parliament passes a controversial constitutional amendment granting Army Chief lifetime immunity from prosecution. Critics call the move autocratic. And Lionel Messi at his brilliant best as Argentina beats Angola 2-0 in a friendly, scores his 115th international goal. That is all from NTV World Primetime News for now. Our next bulletin will be at 10 p.m, bringing you the latest updates from Nepal and around the world. Do join us through our social media. You can also get the latest updates from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
वादी नीलम जो है ये चिलाने से शुरू होता है तो भट तक एक पूरे एक वादी है और इसको वादी नीलम कहते हैं। और हमारा गांव जो है ये दुबारियाँ शहरी ये हमारा गांव है और ये गांव तकरीबन यहाँ ये ऊपर और ये जगह भी उसी में शामिल है जिस जगह हम बैठे हुए हैं, ये भी दुबारियाँ शहरी में शामिल है। और हमारे गांव की आबादी तकरीबन जो है ये 250 घराना है, तकरीबन 3000 की आबादी पर मुश्तमिल ये गांव हमारा है। इस इलाके में जो है ये एक तो चश्मे है ज़्यादा उनका है, दूसरा फिर जंगलात है। जंगलात में ये हरे हरे दरख्त हैं जिसमें देवदार भी है, फर भी है, काइल भी है। ये सब्ज़ा ज़्यादा होता है और सब्ज़ा की वजह से फिर ऊंची ऊंची पहाड़ियाँ हैं, ये बहते हुए दरिया, इसकी वजह से इसके अंदर ज़्यादा खूबसूरती है। फिर बिलखुसूस यहाँ पर रत्ती गली जो है ये तो सब यहाँ मशहूर जगह है, बहुत खूबसूरत झील है वहाँ पर और ये पूरा इलाका बड़ा खूबसूरत इलाका है। पहले ज़माने में जब हम लोग छोटे छोटे थे ना, उस वक्त ये था कि यहाँ बिजली और दीगर चीज़ का कोई इंतज़ाम नहीं था। हम लोग ये क्या करते थे, छोटे छोटे जब स्कूल पढ़ते थे तो हम ये देवदार जो है दरख्त, इसकी वो लकड़ियाँ नीचे से निकालते थे छोटी छोटी, जिसको हम अपनी ज़ुबान में दिल्ली कहते हैं। कुछ अरसे बात हुआ है ये लालटेनें जो हैं ये आई और इसमें हम तेल लाते थे, वो तेल डाल कर बस थोड़ी देर के लिए जलाते थे ताकि तेल भी थोड़ा इस्तेमाल हो, इसलिए कि पसमानदा इलाका था, इधर इतने वो वसाइल नहीं थे, कमाई के दीगर मामलात नहीं थे जिसकी वजह से लोग ये चीज़ों को इस्तेमाल कर सकें। टीवी में नहीं था, दीगर और ज़रूरियात भी नहीं थे, ये मोबाइल वगैरह ये कुछ भी नहीं था, तो जिसकी वजह से बिल्कुल ये था, ये समझ लें कि हम पत्थर के ज़माने में रहते थे। तो हमने सोचा यार हमारा गांव सबसे पीछे है, लिहाजा हम सोचेंगे यहाँ पर तरक्की होनी चाहिए, हमारे गांव के लोग आगे जाएं। लकड़ का ये टरबाइन बनाया और पहली लाइट जो है ये मस्जिद में जलाई, वो जब एक बल्ब जला उसकी रोशनी, तो हमें उम्मीद होगी कि हम ये काम कर सकते हैं। फिर हम अपने गाँव वालों के साथ मिले कि भाई आओ हम मिलकर मुश्तरका तौर पर इस काम को करते हैं। तो हम 2003 में पहली मरतबा जब हमने इस बिजली का जो इब्तदा किया है, 2 गाँव में हमने बिजली का इंतज़ाम कर लिया, तो अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह उसके बाद ये इंतज़ाम शुरू हुआ, जिसकी वजह से काफ़ी सारी तरक्की भी हुई गाँव में अंदर और बहाली भी आई। इस बिजली की वजह से हमारे जंगलात जो हैं ये थोड़े बहुत महफूज हो गए। फिर अच्छे तरीके से जो बच्चे तालीम हासिल नहीं कर सकते थे, जिनके पास वसाइल कुछ भी नहीं थे, अब वो बच्चे आकर अपनी तालीम, मसलन दिन को स्कूल जाते हैं दूर दराज, शाम को जब वापस आते हैं रात 11 बजे तक बैठकर रोशनी का इंतज़ाम है, उसमें अपने स्कूल का वो जो सबक उस्तादों ने रात का काम होमवर्क घर का दिया होता है वो उसको कर लेते हैं, उसमें आसानी हो जाती है, ये दुश्वारी नहीं होती।
हमने अगर किसी को बुरे वक्त में छोड़ दिया, हमने अगर किसी का साथ नहीं दिया तो अल्लाह क्या है नाराज हो गया, अल्लाह ने हमारे लिए भी मुसीबत डाली।
तमाम शहरी कानून की नज़र में बराबर है और कानूनी तहफ़्फ़ुज़ के मुसावी तौर पर हकदार है। जिन्स की बिना पर कोई इम्तियाज़
उसके हवाले से फिर हम इसके लिए पुलिस का इंतज़ाम करते हैं, इसके लिए बेल्ट का इंतज़ाम करते हैं और जो बंदा हमने मुलाज़म रखा है उसको खोलने बंद करने का, चलाने का, लाइन में बुलाने की करता है, जो उस पर अखराजात होते हैं, इसकी ज़रूरियात होती है, और जब आप लोग हमें नहीं, इसका हमने ऐसा अपना सिस्टम रखा हुआ है कि हम जो हमारे 3 गांव हैं यहाँ से ऊपर, उनमें हम महीने में 1 मरतबा उनके साथ मीटिंग करते हैं, उन सब मेम्बरान को जमा करते हैं। एक कमेटी बनी हुई है, 6 रुकनी कमेटी है, तो उसमें बाकायदा एक सदर है, जनरल सेक्रेटरी वगैरह, ये सारा पूरा एक सेटअप है। तो जब हम बैठते हैं कि भाई अब इसको हम आगे इसके अंदर कोई बेल्ट की ज़रूरत है, ग्रीस की ज़रूरत है, दीगर जो भी ज़रूरियात हैं, तो उनके साथ हम बैठ कर मीटिंग करते हैं। तो हमको जो चीज़ ज़रूरत पड़ती है कि अब इस पर इतने अखराजात हैं या इसकी नाली जो है वो टूट जाती है, उसके लिए ज़रूरियात पड़ती है, तो हम आपस में बैठकर कुछ पैसे जमा कर लेते हैं। तकरीबन 16 अगस्त 2022 को जब फ्लड आया तो उस फ्लड में ये सारा कुछ सिस्टम तबाह हो गया था। 2 जनरेटर हमने लगाए हुए थे, 15 केवी का वहाँ पर था और 30 केवी का इधर था। तो ये वो भी दोनों ख़त्म हो गए, उनका कुछ भी नहीं मिला। ये टर्बाइन थी, इसको तोड़ दिया था। ये पुली नई हमने मंगवाई है भी। ये नलके जो सब थे, ये नया सिस्टम हमने पूरा किया इसका दोबारा। जब ये बिजली आ गई ना, तो इसकी वजह से ये हुआ कि जो हमारे मुतल्लिकीन थे उन्होंने गेस्ट हाउस बनाए। जब गेस्ट हाउस बना दिए तो उनके अंदर ये हुआ कि जब ये टूरिज़म आते थे वहाँ पर उनको इंटरनेट और दीगर सहूलियात मैसर होती थी। जब बिजली होती है तो फिर वो सारी सहूलियात उनको मैसर हो जाती हैं। तो इससे ये हो गया खुशहाली होगी। फिर लोगों जब टूरिज़म आना शुरू हो गए तो लोगों ने अपनी जीपें ख़रीद ली, कुछ लोगों ने अपने घोड़े ले लिए। तो जीपों पर यहाँ से आगे रत्ती गली तक ले जाते हैं। 18 किलोमीटर का फासला जो है वहाँ पर लोग चले जाते हैं। वहाँ से आगे तकरीबन 2 किलोमीटर या 1.5 किलोमीटर है, वहाँ पर घोड़ों के ज़रिए से लोग ऊपर झील पर पहुँच जाते हैं। वहाँ पर रोज़गार मुहैया हो गया लोगों को।
तो इधर 15 साल पहले लाइट आई है, हाइडल पावर। तो इधर अपना हाइडल पावर बनाया। फिर पहले लाइट का बहुत ज़्यादा इशू था, लाइट नहीं थी। हाइडल पावर बने, मिल के सब लोगों ने काम किए, तो अब कोई मसला नहीं है लाइट का। टूरिस्ट वगैरह भी आते हैं तो आसानी से कमाई होती है। हमारे जो मर्द हजरात हैं वो उधर टूरिस्ट उधर होते हैं, गेस्ट हाउस पे होते हैं, तो उधर वो चला रहे हैं। तो घर पे हम खाना बना के ख़वातीन हजरात भेजती हैं उधर खाना, मिल के हम काम करते हैं सारे। तो गुजारा सही है, अच्छी तरह से गुजारे से भी सही है, अच्छा बनता है, सब कुछ निज़ाम सही चलता है।
तकरीबन 11 साल हो गए मुझे यहाँ टूरिज़म पे काम करते हुए। और जब हम इस वैली में आए थे 20 साल पहले फायर आया। जब हम इस वैली में आए थे तो उस वक्त कुछ भी नहीं था यहाँ। और ये हमने तकरीबन 2005 में ये वैली ओपन हुई थी और उसके बाद 2008 में ये बिल्डिंगें लीज़ पे गई हैं और 2012 में हमने इसको स्टार्ट लिया है। तो उसके बाद हमने काम करते करते माशाल्लाह अभी काफ़ी टूरिज़म भी बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया है। और उसके बाद अभी काफ़ी लोगों ने गेस्ट हाउस भी बना लिए हैं यहाँ पे।
हमारे इलाके में जब जगह कम हो जाती है, गेस्ट हाउस में जगह नहीं होती, तो फिर अपने घरों में भी जो कमरे इजाफी होते हैं उनमें इनको ठहरा देते हैं। जब वो आते हैं उनको देसी खाना हम लोग खिलाते हैं। जब वो लोग खाते हैं ये चीज़ें देसी, वो खुश होते हैं। तो वो अपने तौर पर तोहफे के तौर पर जो है उन लोगों के साथ जो भी अपने घर में रखते हैं वो ताउन कर लेते हैं।
बागमती प्रदेशका जिल्लाहरूमध्ये सिन्धुपाल्चोक पनि एक हिमाली जिल्ला हो। भौगोलिक रूपमा विकट भए तापनि ऐतिहासिक तथा पर्यटकीय रूपमा सिन्धुपाल्चोक जिल्लाको महत्वपूर्ण पहिचान रहेको छ। मेलम्चीदेखि 6 किलोमिटर उत्तर पूर्वको दूरीमा रहेको गोल्मा स्थान गोल्मा राजा र गोल्मा रानीको नामबाट रहन गएको किम्वदन्ती छ। परापूर्वकालको इँटा, ढुङ्गेधारा, सुन बनाउने ढुङ्गा देख्दा जो कोहीलाई पनि वास्तविकताको अनुभूति हुन्छ। गोल्मा स्थानबाट 2 किलोमिटरको दूरीमा अवस्थित सातधारा डुब्सेश्वर महादेव पवित्र धार्मिक स्थल हो, जसको महिमा प्रचार प्रसारको कमीले गाउँमै सीमित रहेको छ। परापूर्वकालदेखि साधु सन्तहरूको तपोभूमि रहेको डुब्सेश्वर महादेवमा माघे संक्रान्तिको दिनमा झाँक्रीहरूले ढ्याङ्ग्रो जति ठटायो उति नै ढुङ्गाबाट पानीको धारा आउने सत्यता देख्दा जो कोही पनि अचम्मित हुन्छन्। यसैगरी लामा ओडार सातधारा डुब्सेश्वर महादेवबाट 2 किलोमिटरको दूरीमा पर्दछ। प्राकृतिक छट्टाले सुन्दर मनोरम देखिने यस स्थान लामाहरूको लागि अत्यन्त महत्वपूर्ण रहेको छ। पर्यटकीय दृष्टिले त यसको सुन्दरता र महत्व बडो गजबको पाइन्छ। सिन्धुपाल्चोक जिल्लाकै विशाल खुलाचौर रहेको यो गुफा डाँडा पर्यटकलाई आनन्दित तुल्याउने एक प्रमुख स्थान हो, जहाँ सिन्धुपाल्चोक जिल्लाकै पहिलो विमानस्थल बनाउन सकिने सम्भावना रहेको छ। 77 वटै जिल्लाहरूको नाममा झण्डा गाडिएको यस ठाउँमा जिल्लाकै गौरवान्वित जलवायुको प्रतिमा रहेको छ। गुफा डाँडाबाट 1 घण्टाको पैदल यात्रापछि ओख्रेनी पुगिन्छ। सिन्धुपाल्चोक जिल्लाको इन्द्रावती गाउँपालिका वार्ड नम्बर 1 मा अवस्थित ओख्रेनी गाउँ सामुद्रिक सतहबाट 2253 मिटर उचाइमा रहेको छ। ओख्रेनीबाट पूर्वमा गौरी शंकर हिमाल, दक्षिणमा दक्षिणकाली मन्दिर, पश्चिममा गणेश हिमाल र उत्तरमा तीनचुले हिमाल रहेको छ। शेर्पा जातिहरूको बाहुल्यता भएको ओख्रेनीमा टिम्मुरको तेल तथा चौरीको छुर्पी स्थानीयहरूले उत्पादन गर्ने गरेका छन्। हलोको चलन अझै पनि देख्न सकिने सिन्धुपाल्चोक जिल्लाको पहाडको गर्भमा लुकेको अत्यन्त सुन्दर स्थान मध्ये ओख्रेनी एक हो। नेपालका पहाडी कुना कन्दराहरू आफ्नो सुन्दरता यसै गरी लुकाएर बसेका छन्। त्यो सुन्दरता उजागर गर्ने दायित्व तपाई हामीको हो। ओख्रेनीबाट 1 घण्टाको उकालो चढेपछि नौलिङ्गेश्वर महादेव पुगिन्छ। जनै पूर्णिमाको दिन यस स्थानमा वर्षेनी भव्य मेला लाग्ने गर्दछ। ग्याल्पो लोसारको दिन यस ठाउँमा शेर्पा समुदायले आफ्नो परम्परा अनुसार नाचगान गर्दछन्। नौलिङ्गेश्वर महादेव छेउमा रहेको प्राकृतिक ढिकी भनेर चिनिने यस स्थान हेर्दा ढुङ्गा खस्न लागेको जस्तो देखिन्छ। हातले पनि हलाउन सकिने यस ढुङ्गा विश्वासै गर्न नसकिने गरी अडिएर बसेको छ। यो प्राकृतिक रूपमा बनेको ढिकीलाई हल्लाएमा मानसिक शान्ति तथा शारीरिक प्रफुल्लता बढ्ने जनविश्वास रहेको छ। हिमालको छेउमा अवस्थित सिन्धुपाल्चोक जिल्लाको उत्तरी भेगमा रहेको अति सुन्दर, आकर्षक, रमणीय र प्राकृतिक सौन्दर्यले भरिभराउ ओख्रेनी गाउँको छानामा रहेको प्राकृतिक ढिकी पर्यटकहरूको पर्खाइमा रहेको।
So it's finally here, the big night, the launch night. Took a while, didn't it, Shivani?
You call it a while? I mean, like so many hundreds of coffee-fueled nights, and then I've already lost count, thousands of text messages, and one too many script edits, and you call that a while, Devendra?
Of course, patience has been our unofficial production partner.
Well, I can't tell about the journey or the waitings, actually, but the journey, of course, has been worth it.
So before another task, a final rehearsal comes in, shall we do it?
Let's go!
Hello there, welcome to this special dialogue episode on a special day for all of us here at Nepal Television. New venture of Nepal Television, Global Voice, NTV World is beaming live to you. On this special occasion, it demands a special dialogue. To celebrate this occasion, we have a special panel in our studios of NTV World in Kathmandu.
And yes, if we have this, take this privilege of introducing our guest, Devendra. In this show, the special dialogue, we have with us Mr. Mani Rana, BBC Nepali service, a legendary figure in Nepal's broadcasting history. And next, of course, Professor Dr. Bipin Adhikari, a constitutional expert himself, also the former dean of the School of Law at the Kathmandu University.
A very well-known female voice, Mrs. Ritu Singh Vaidya. She's the managing director of Vaidya Organization of Industries and Trading Houses. And also, we have with us an economist, well-known economist, researcher, Professor Dr. Arjun Kumar Baral, who is the executive director of SEDA.
Yeah, what we're doing today, or making an effort to, or an attempt to, in fact, is to explore the dynamics around us and see through the experts' lenses and their expert analysis the positioning of Nepal and what could be the road ahead. And since we are certainly talking about dynamics and change, we will certainly not do justice, Devendra, without incorporating the voices of the new generation. In fact, the energy of new generation, which would be incorporated in short video excerpts, which we have extracted from the interviews that we've had very recently at NTV World Studios. And among them are Miraj Dhungana, one among the pioneering of the Gen Z movement, the recent Gen Z movement, which has brought about a wave of change in the entire national landscape. And second is a practitioner who's already placed Nepal in the global market scene. That's none other than the founder as well as the CEO of Fuse Machines, Dr. Samir Maske.
The theme for the special dialogue is changing socio-political dynamics and need for a global voice. To begin with the discussion, we'd like to start with Dr. Adhikari. Dr. Adhikari, you see a wave of change has swept almost the Southeast Asia. How do you see this wave of change at this particular point of time?
The wave of change that we are going through is certainly a very notable exercise recently, basically for two things. Because this is the wave brought in the scenario by the youth of the country. And secondly, these are the people who never had any intervention in politics or in society in Nepal, in Nepal's history. This is the first time that they are really on the scene with very different perspective about politics, society, and also the change and transformation they've been thinking of.
Vis-a-vis this change, let's look at the larger picture, Dr. Adhikari, because it becomes so important for us as Nepalis, us as citizens of a small economy and a small country like Nepal, to understand the bigger picture as we deal and see and experience or live the changes that are undergoing around our close vicinity. From the new power alignment to the digital movements that are paving way for such sort of movements that we just saw around us, right? What is your observation? How do you see the changes influencing the very idea of democracy and governance?
I mean, first of all, what is most important is that there is a change in the government. So there is a point of view that the existing setup cannot probably handle many of the issues related with good governance, anti-corruption, as well as the context of rule of law and democracy in the country. And that led to the change in government, and that change was not strictly according to the parameters of the constitution, and that itself heralds a sort of change, because it gives the perspective to the political elite in the country that things could change in a different way if they don't really come up with certain commitment for transformation of the country. Similarly, the second context here is also about the poor socio-economic I think deteriorating situation, and that also has affected the millions in the country, despite that we have some sort of democracy here for the last 6-7 decades. And now that the youth movement, let's say Gen Z movement, the coin of the day, has really brought in certain perspective that the business as usual cannot go have any commitment at all. That will have to be rethought of, and then the new perspective has to be set up.
A short of democracy. We'll probably talk a bit later in the second part of this. So my question to you is, was that change inevitable, or it was just an awakening of a generation?
I think that change was inevitable. We certainly didn't know how, what and when it will come. But then this time the youths, they intervened, and in a way that was not very well contemplated by the common people. But then everybody knew that we have we don't have a democracy actually, because we have certain type of elections in the country. There is a change in government, but due to corruption and also the lack of governance standards, nobody really believed that the government represents the people, especially the most deprived and vulnerable people. And the youth have the biggest stake, because 40-45% of the national population, it belongs to the young people. So obviously they think that this country is not compatible with their future, and so this time what comes in is certainly remarkable, and the little intervention they had really triggered a wave of change, and that change could have enormous effect in the days to come.
One more question I'd like to just jump in. Dr. Adhikari, our constitutional vision, does it even anticipate global disruptions like this?
I think we are always, some way influenced by international events. So every change in the country in the past 7 decades were some way influenced by the change outside our political borders, be it the change in India or China or in Europe or in the rest of the world. So this time there is a sea change in the country, because most of the educated youths, they have many of them have international exposure also, and many of them are very competitive internationally. They are looking for their future in the country itself, and also want a change and accommodation in the system of government here, which has been very in a way giving a very lackluster performance. And so the influence from outside had decisive impact. It's all digital, because people now are more trained to read and understand international events in the context of their country, and many of them, the students, they have exposure, and fortunately, because most of the youths, they speak English, and that has given them a sort of exposure that was not possible some decades before. So certainly the international influence is there, but it's not in any sense. It's not the political influence as such. It's spontaneous, and it has certain its own legacy. It's not affected in the sense of geopolitics or even European or American or even Indian or Chinese interest here.
Let's look at this from an economic perspective. This change, the wave of change that just swept in the country, how does that affect economically the country, and how do you see your overall observation of the recent changes there?
I think we have to see it with the transformation of the world economy, because the world is also transforming. World scenarios, economic scenario is changing. First of all, it is shifting from US to China or other countries. Recently, I joined a conference in Chengdu, China, the Boao Forum for Asia. And that forum also almost same issues were at the time. That is, the world is changing. It is due to digitalization or introduction of new technology, AI, and other issues also there. Suppose the blue economy is issue, and so many issues are around the world. So the same influence we are observing in Nepalese case, because our youths, our mass population, they are just seeing every day observing the scenario, how it is changing. So almost this change, this shifting, because we are hiring from the world.
Is the lack of access, equal access to economic resources, or lack of opportunities, equal opportunity, is that one of the reasons, do you see?
There definitely lack of opportunities also, because some people are getting, some resources are concentrated to some persons, that is upper class, and there is a widened gap between rich and poor, and some are haves and other are have-nots. And there are other issues also, suppose corruption and governance issues also.
How do you see it? How is it going to impact the economy in the next 5 years, let's say?
Next 5 years, I cannot say, but due to technological transformation, I think it's something changed. It is with this
a positive change, or are we going to say a negative change? That's my concern.
We expect positive change, because as a student of economics, as a teacher of economics, we always expect positive change.
How do you see this affect the governance and public discourse in developing nations like us?
From the side of the government, always trying to do something good, something change, something trying to change. But actual change, people are not, they are not experiencing, they are not getting such change. They are always almost the same position that they are in 5 years back or 10 years back. So in their life, almost they are not in a position to feel.
So you mean
change.
there is a huge gap between the people's expectations and the delivery? Right.
Now, this, I want to connect the earlier statement of Dr. Baral to Mrs. Baidya. How do you see, as an entrepreneur, how do you see the recent things that has happened here in this country from an entrepreneur's point of view?
Economics is something which really makes the world go around, right? So I think, this is a very positive, positivity is in our human nature. We might go down and up at different times, but in the end, you have to have a positive approach. I would say everything could be taken negatively or positively, but it's up to us. And I think it is the entrepreneurs are generally very, very positive. If something has gone wrong, it has to be fixed. That is the basic nature of entrepreneurship. And from that point of view, I'm very much positive. And I think as a country, we cannot have another outlook other than positivity.
How about the Nepali entrepreneurs, Ms. Vaidya? How quickly are they adapting now, or do you still think they're thinking too locally at the moment?
if we are talking about an individual space, whether somebody is exploring it outside, I'm sure a lot of people want to or would like to, and are maybe also doing already. I think, sometimes I think the laws have been kind of in the way for us to even step outside. But other than that, I think within the landscape, everybody is trying to do their best and perform positively. On a very personal scale, I feel how you run a company is exactly how a country is run. So if you do good, barometers all match up the same, you'll have a positive result. So I can only say I'm highly positive.
We have a seasoned broadcaster with us, a person who started broadcasting way before all these change agents were even born. Mr. Mani Rana, I'd like to come to you. After hearing the discourse of the three guests here, as a broadcaster, how do you assess the things now? The dissemination of the information during the change period in Nepal, how did you see it's happening in a global, broader perspective, not just from Nepal, but from the outer world as well?
I have to make a few comments about how the change has taken place in this country. Change did happen, but we do not know whether the instigators of the change were responsible for it or somebody else was responsible for it. That's number one. Number two, the government has not been doing anything that it should really be doing. Okay? So it's time something happened. Otherwise, the election scheduled for 6 months' time or less than 6 months now is not going to happen. Apart from that, I think there needs to be positivity in thought, as everybody has been saying. We have to be positive. Otherwise, just being negative about everything is not going to work at all. Nor is the fact that if you are too positive, will it work. But I think there is still a lot that needs to be done.
You just said you had a few questions on the change itself, the agents, right? Was there an information gap, a serious information gap during this period in Nepal when the movement took place?
Well, the information gaps always exist in Nepal. Not just in this case, but in every case. I cannot say that there was no information gap. There always is information gap, and nobody expected the Gen Z movement to do what it did. Okay? They haven't got a leadership. Somebody from somewhere has just infiltrated the whole system and done all this. The arson attacks, the destruction of buildings, government buildings. I mean, what was everybody doing? The army went ahead and imposed a curfew the second night or the third night. But before that, I mean, what was it doing? Not even sending fire brigades to places that were being burned down. So everybody is responsible for it. Everybody has to give an answer.
Almost 2 months now, Mr. Rana, still we are searching answers to these questions, right? So there was a serious flaw in the information flow system somewhere.
I don't think the answers will come out clearly even in the next 6 months. So forget about the 2 months that has already gone. So something somewhere is lacking, something somewhere is not being done right, and I personally do not think is going to be done right.
Right, Mr. Rana, as we are talking about this change that we all were part of, or what we witnessed in the recent past. So there's a huge tectonic shift that's undergoing the media landscape as well, not only in Nepal, but it's a global phenomena where traditional arsenals of journalism is being challenged. It's more than gaps, it's, I believe, a lot of noise in the media landscape that's happening. So in this scenario, how you as a very seasoned broadcaster gauge global socio-political dynamics?
I haven't been practicing journalism for a long time now. I took early retirement in 2003, And since then, I have done very, very, very little journalism. What has been happening in Nepal is I've been interviewed by people from the 70s onwards. And every time they ask me about this, I say the media is just going overboard, doing exactly what they want without paying attention to basic facts. The media is not honest at the moment and hasn't been so for the last however many years it's been in existence in Nepal in this shape. In the olden days, there was only Radio Nepal, that's it. If you wanted to listen to any important events, stories of any important events, you listen to Radio Nepal, which gave very little. You listen to the BBC, you listen to All India Radio or other radio stations, okay? Nepal, I think the media became more open and more aggressive, or it has been so for the last maybe 30 years or less. And ever since the beginning, it's been the same. There is no proper decisions made by the media about being straightforward and about the truth and about facts. They just say exactly what they want to say.
Mr. Rana, but the media landscape definitely had changed.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and one aspect we cannot ignore is the audience. What do you say? Are the audience of today more empowered or fragmented?
Well, they are empowered with the wrong information. You know, I mean, the present day media is telling its audience whatever it thinks is correct. You know, it's not just one, it's everybody doing the same. The language they speak is so full of mistakes, the Nepali language I'm talking about. Looking at what I did in London to what I see people in Nepal doing, it's just not comparable.
We are having a special dialogue on a special day, marking the launch of NTV World. Nepal's perspective to the world is our slogan. As Mani Rana just talked about the media, how true they are. They only disseminate what they think is true, not what is the truth. So now this brings us to the second session of the conversation in special dialogue, which will be more about carrying the momentum of the change that we spoke on the first session to the next level now. How is it and will affect us as the people of this country, socially, politically, and economically? Again, I'd like to start with Dr. Adhikari. In the long term, how is it going to affect the country, especially in terms of governance?
I think the most important challenge now is to organize the elections on time, and that's very important because this government has not been constituted according to the law of the constitution. So as soon as there is elections, we'll have a legitimate government installed, and then obviously the parliamentary process will begin. That will itself, guarantee that we are not deviating from democratic standards. So that election is quite a challenge because there are some forces now coming up who think that this country cannot hold the elections because the peace is not guaranteed here. So I don't understand what does that mean, because this is the election commission in Nepal, which has already in the past held many elections like this, ever since we started with experimenting democracy, and every election was a success. So except the tiny local elections, I think, conducted during the Maoist pressure, under the pressure of Maoist. But this is possible. Now that is quite a challenge. Another challenge is to make sure that the people who get elected are not the same sort of people, because the movements are meant to set the stage for change, And now to bring in changes, you need to get new faces in parliament, and that's possible only when you reform the political parties. The present government can do it, and in fact we have been saying that they should start doing it as soon as possible, because there are at least 4 issues that must be first accomplished. The first one is obviously the democratization of the party machinery. Similarly, there is a need for financial transparency. The country has become corrupt because the parties are corrupt, because corruption, the institution of corruptions, I think they don't exist in the society. Now, if there are islands within our political system which facilitate corruption, is the political party. So financial transparency within the political party. How does they make money? Where does the money come from? How do they spend it? And whether the people who are contributing to the political process are the corrupt people or the people like us, the ordinary people who really do it because they think it's a public institution. Similarly, the third issue is inclusion. Inclusion is the constitutional commitment. Now that inclusion has been done to some extent as far as the state is concerned, but the biggest institutions in our society, the public institution, are the political parties, and they should be compelled to be, to observe the constitutional standards of inclusion, to make sure that the provision of inclusion has been complied by all the political parties. They should not be allowed to contest election. This could be done by reforming the existing laws very positively. And finally, the federalization of the political parties. Now the major issue, as I see constitutionally in this country, is we have a 3-tier federal system in the country, and each tier is autonomous to form the government or introduce the socio-economic programs of their choice in their territory. Now that has no hindrance at all. Now the real issue that we have is the political parties who mobilize this constitutional power locally or provincially are the arms of the high command in Kathmandu. So the parties are still unitary, and they are not federalized. They have seemingly administrative federalization, but not political, because what is most important at present is that each provincial or local chapters of each political party has to be 100% autonomous within the party system, so that the leaders or the high command in Kathmandu cannot dictate the formation of government provincially or locally. Now what happened in Nepal, you can see in most of the places, if there is a change in the federal government, that has impact on
just translates up to the provinces.
Exactly. Without any evaluation of the situation, they just do it because that becomes the grammar of politics. So in order to avoid it, the parties should be federalized in a very autonomous way, so that they are able to give effect to the local mandate. If these 4 things are done before these elections, I am sure all the faces in the parliament will be totally new faces, and they will obviously be accountable faces, because now they are under the control of local people. So this has not happened, and that's the biggest problem now.
Right. As Dr. Adhikari puts up, as I read between the lines, let me pick from the questions on capabilities of our framework and institutions and the gap in between. If I may move to Dr. Baral, are you equally optimistic at the present context, removal of the established forces from the governance? How optimistic are you that this is not going to invite unrest in the future in Nepal?
Okay, just I told you why I am optimistic about the situation, economic situation of the country. Without democratic system, we will track country's transformation is not possible. Economic transformation is positive transformation is not possible. Let's see some economic dimensions of the country. Suppose at present, many people, many youths are going abroad for foreign employment, and we are, means economy almost, it is remittance based economy. Traditionally we say it is agro based economy, now it is remittance based economy. Almost 30% of country's GDP means it is based on remittances. Means every month the figure of remittance is rising and rising. And but with this situation, country just it is relying means our banking system, other financial system. It is, and our entrepreneurs also almost it is means they are optimistic. I agree with Bipin sir. First of all, our democratic system, our overall means constitutionally it should be in track. Now it is in almost coma. The election with new faces of the in parliament. And with this situation means all these systems are interconnected.
Dr. Adhikari, is it just a political change? I think the main question and concern of the general public, is it just a political change, or do you see the risks of this fragility transcending into the socio-economic ecosystem of our country?
I think it will be a disaster if this change results into the constitutional change, because that simply means that we will be bogged down in new type of issues which we will not be able to handle so well given our experience in the past. So this is a politically we have the same machinery, but our problem is not the constitution. Our problem is the present leadership, basically the political elite of the country, who have been taking the charge since the last 3 decades, but have not been really to bring in meaningful changes in the country. So in democracy, people expect that there is a change in leadership also.
Right. Ms. Vaidya, if I may turn to you, I think you are at the brunt of, all these shifts ongoing all around you and even in the global sphere, right? So how do you see Nepal's political institutions and social structures? Are they resilient enough to manage the pressure of globalization and the digitization or digital disruption?
So I think when we start looking and analyzing the situation, because where we sit today and the vulnerability, the instability that we are seeing today, I think like you heard both the experts, a constitutional expert and also at the same time economics expert, we are only the bricks in that whole system. So nobody is insulated from one another. So I think to start off with anything right now on a positive footing, you need the foundation. The foundation is we have a constitution in place. We know it's not the fault of the constitution, it is how we were dealing with the tweaking the rules. And so if we are going to do that, it's we need to recognize the problem areas. So I think we need, on a very personal, institutional, business, security is very, very important. I think we already have talked about it. Mr. Rana also in fact just now said, security I think is a first layer that we all need, whether it's on a personal level or in a business or a country's level. Second thing is we need good governance. We need the good governance, and before we go to the globe and to globalization, let's put our own house in order, is what we need to do right now. So I would think that we need to really have this governance in place at the earliest possible. If I may say that with the Gen Z movement, we've had a deep cleaning happening of the system. It's actually a deep cleaning on a very layman's term. Now how do we put the house back in order is really, really very essential for us to start thinking of anything further. Everybody's still going around their life, about their lives and doing things what they are supposed to, whether it is inside the house, in a business or XYZ might be. But for the stability, economic and social, we need good governance, And the good governance will finally lead to economic betterment, where I think every entrepreneur in this country is waiting to start performing to their fullest. Because if we don't get these breaks of irregular policies, change of policies, we can deal with the COVIDs, because that's a natural phenomena. But when our own governance brings up issues like this, it needs very severe
more
attention.
Serious than COVID. Okay, Mrs. Baidya, that's an interesting observation of an entrepreneur as well. Now I come to Mani Rana again. At this point, you're pretty critical of the media, that's earlier. Now, at this sort of situation, how should the media be? How it should be? What sort of role, constructive or more critical, what mode the media should be in at this point of time?
As far as I am concerned, the media in Nepal is going to be doing exactly what it is doing now for the, I don't know how many more years. How long have we been talking about good governance? Has there been good governance? Who's responsible for this? The people who bring these governments into power.
Can we say to some part media is also responsible for
Absolutely,
this?
absolutely.
So what is the course correction now? How can they correct their course now?
I think the media should now focus on being more truthful to its audience. Okay? Not what they've been doing so far. If they can do that, that would be a great change that would happen in Nepal. Otherwise, we keep talking about good governance, we keep talking about what has been going wrong for all these years, nothing's changing, nothing's being corrected. We are responsible for that, because we are the ones who bring in the governments.
What would it take for our media culture to shift from reaction to reflection?
I really don't know, because you see, every part of the media is affiliated to some political party or the other. As long as that is going on, how can you expect change? You cannot. You see, they are always dictated to by the political parties, political leaders. You see? So as long as they keep doing that.
Also, the emergence of a digital media landscape had made it more easier for propagandas like that to spread.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's made life easier for people like me as well, because you don't have to turn on the radio or the television set. You just look at the phone and it tells you to some extent. But as I keep saying, the media keeps telling lies all the time.
Well, let's come to the same point, Mr. Rana. It has made your life easier, so that means you definitely do follow the present-day new media, digital media. Now, how do you, let's say, take the information? How do you filter it? Let's say, okay, this is the right one I should take, and this is probably a fabricated one, or I should have some doubt.
Okay, it's not just the Nepalese media that
it's the global scenario.
Having lived in England for a long time, I'm interested in what is going on there.
Yeah, definitely.
You see, you look at some English or British media, and they keep saying, oh, Keir Starmer is going to be over in the next weeks, next few months, or whatever. That I have stopped reading altogether, because it's not true. And then all of a sudden they have news about the king or his family. That is also not true. You learn from...
So is it the source you should really be very much looking into, or the authenticity of the, let's say, disseminator you should be looking into to realize?
Well, what I do, I tell you what I do. If I have not heard the news on television or on radio, I listen to both. I watch TV and I listen to the radio twice a day. Okay? If I haven't listened to it on the news, on radio or television, then I say, okay, this is, that's how I do it.
Right. If I may turn to Ms. Vaidya now, just building on what Mr. Rana just said, I'm sure you also follow news updates and stories all over the world, and you travel, you get to meet people while, doing your business. Do you sometimes feel that Nepali stories lose something when they are told in languages of global trends? Have you ever experienced such instances or reflections, met with such reflections of your own?
Well, I can't pinpoint a single incident, but elaborating on Mr. Rana's, I would say that how I would like to read news is that don't read it from only one source. So, you know, when you read it from many sources, you can then read between the lines as what it is said. But actually, like, I can see the grievance that Mr. Rana is coming from is because news reporting should be about what is right. You know, you have to go into the depths of the subject to know what exactly what was. But what's happening is, I think we have all started playing to the breaking news, who's first. And I think that's where a lot of times things go wrong. But yes, I think taking it with a pinch of salt, the way to balance is it that maybe, you know, hear it from many sources so that you get to know where it's coming from actually.
That's an interesting point. We would like to hear from two of our other guests as well. How do they consume information at this point of time? Dr. Baral, coming to you, how do you consume information right now and what are your sources?
In our society, many people getting information from social sites, suppose like Facebook, other social media, which is providing right information and which is providing wrong information, which is misinformation. It's very difficult to identify. Even we intellectual persons, we are intellectual persons, we are sometimes misguided with misinformation. Which is right, which is wrong?
Dr. Adhikari, I'm coming to the same question to you. If you have time, when you have to consume information, which is your favorite platform, which is the way you do it?
Most of the time, I'm happy with broadsheets to read most of the morning news. And the rest, you know, from different sources. But we can take the 15-minute BBC Nepali service as an example. I mean, it's just 15 minutes, but it's the most independent news outlet in Nepal on Nepalese issues. Because when they interview somebody, there is another one to contest it. So similarly, when they read something, they always give both, you know, first, second, third perspectives, and they don't end up with abrupt conclusion on things which are very serious. And these are the common sense, you know, principles that have not been applied in Nepal. Most of the time, when you select people, for example, you organizing this, you know, forum, I mean, you must have considered certain facts before inviting us on board, right? Similarly, but if you are independent, free and impartial, you end up doing things in a very different way. But the same thing, if it is done by another media outlet, you know, in Kathmandu, let's say there are 3, 4, 5 very big media houses, they will obviously first ask that what is your opinion on this particular issue. You know, I mean, there will be a sort of censorship before you are invited. So based on your opinion, you are on board or not.
Right, you all mean source.
Just to confirm, Dr. Adhikari, we were not influenced by anybody to set up this panel.
I'm sure you have not done. Mostly, whether it is Radio Nepal or NTV or even Gorkha Patra, I think it's a government outlet. But then a government outlet has to balance with the demand of the common people as well as, you know, cater to the needs of the government.
Now we have shifted to public service broadcasting now, so that makes another shift.
The fact remains that you are government funded and the appropriation bill in parliament, you know, allocates you resources necessary to run your program. So you survive because of independence and impartiality, which the government must also guarantee, because we are in a democracy and this is a public program, and that compulsion is not there for many others. They consider it as a business byproduct, you know, something that, you know, that you establish because you have a certain business stake.
Right,
and
so
once
if I may intervene, what I read from the panel is source and selection matters. It really matters.
And also, obviously, I think, if I may add, I think it's what is happening is what I think is a clear voice. What you're seeing is that I think we all acknowledge that a lot of times media is being weaponized, and that is a wrong policy.
That's very true.
This leads me to a very interesting question to Mr. Rana. I'd like to ask you: is present-day media a business or service?
It's obviously business.
Business.
That's what I think. I may be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I am on the belief that nobody is doing writing news and making television programs. I'm not talking about you. I mean the independent stations. I don't think they're doing it as a public service. They're doing it to make money. Look at how much advertisement commercials there are when you listen to any TV or radio station.
I also have an answer to your question. I think it hardly matters whether it is business or service. The real issue is whether the media persons are professionals or not. I mean, whether they are skilled or not, whether they, maintain certain professional standards or not. Do they go by code of conduct? Is there a professional association which really takes charge when the media norms are violated? And finally, the issue is whether the people, who are considered incompetent are filtered out in the process. And if there is a scope for it, certainly, the question of ownership is not very important.
We are moving on to the next segment now, where we discuss how important is media. Can it, do more to institutionalize the changes? I would come to you with the how question, Mr. Rana. How can modern media meet the consumption demand of information that has been extremely accessible, but, as we all agree, extremely irresponsible as well?
I don't know how long it's going to take for the media to be responsible, but there is hope. I mean, people are changing, and I think it's very, very important that the media does take that responsibility to heart and be careful about how it goes ahead. It has to go ahead properly and in the right direction. This is something that I've been asked and I've been talking about for the last 30 years or more. And my answer hasn't changed because the situation hasn't changed. You see, but there is still hope, and we can still expect the media to do things better for people like us to be able to be interested in it.
If you were mentoring a young journalist today, Mr. Rana, what would you tell them to focus on?
The truth. Not that I am a perfect person in what I did or I do, but I think if they focus on the truth instead of going around in circles looking at what this one is doing and that one is doing and to get ahead of them, I think if they focus on the truth and facts, it will be much better for them and us.
Vis-a-vis this statement, if we may turn to Dr. Adhikari, what's been your assessment of media in reference to the disseminating of information during the recent Gen Z movement?
I think we have, the whole, the environment in Nepal is the people, not just people, but every outlet here. I mean, it's like, they have activist, thinking. So you are not noted if you are not activist, if you don't speak aloud, with some, harshness or, maybe with certain contempt or, aggression in your remarks. So that has been there everywhere. And most of the media people here, I mean, it's a profession of young people. I mean, we have, media persons like Mr. Rana, they're very few. You can see that most of them are younger people, especially online, and we still maybe lack enough training. I mean, about capacity as well as, the resources at their disposal. But more or less, because we have, many outlets, the truth has to come out. And if the readers are smart, obviously they can choose, the right information, find right news.
Right, Ms. Ritu Vaidya, if I may ask your insights, I think we all agree that Nepal long has had seized the limelight on issues like social taboos, including chaupadi and so on, right? Poverty. The focus of the spotlight has mostly been on the grim side. Do you think a shift is needed there, or do you see any needed shift in the media as well?
So I think what I feel is truth, a reconciliation on what is the fact. Even if today, let's say, all this is a venture. News creation is also a venture, but to keep yourself away from commercialization, or in spite of the commercialization, to be able to maintain your own personality, to bring out the truth and to state the facts is something which is expected of media always. Other than that, I think, yes, I think like I said, I mean, media can be of great use, can be weaponized, is a commercial venture. In this whole scenario, to bring up very strong issues like what you said, the Chopari and all of that, that is a subject which really needs to now be brought out by maybe, let's say, the media. I hope not the Gen Z movement, but I mean, not to the way it happened, because the thing is that we need to bring it out that is it a hygiene issue or is it a religious issue? It was never a religious issue. It was a hygiene issue, whatever happened in the past. So today, if and today's amenities, with all the amenities that we have available to ourselves, we have to change it. I lend my voice to it. I've said it many times before also. And I think, yes, media should definitely get involved in it, because I think it's a huge pain point for all the women in Nepal.
Allow me to ask one question here, Mrs. Vaidya. You said media can be weaponized, right? As an entrepreneur, have you ever weaponized or used media for your interests?
I'm not in the business of media.
No, as an entrepreneur, for your business purpose or motives, have you used media? Or do media entrepreneurs want to use media for their business purposes?
So I would, see, I think we can see examples everywhere. In this very globalized world, we always learn from one another, right? So you see everywhere in the world, you see the most prosperous countries to the least developed also, where a lot of times the media houses are controlled or owned or completely funded by a certain XYZ person.
And also the advertisement policy.
Even the advertisement policy. Like I said, we live in a very commercialized world, of course. I mean, we are commoditizing, commercializing anything and everything. I think media, source of information also has gone into that, because it becomes
So you have not tested the vulnerability of media?
I don't intend to.
We go to Dr. Baral now. Now, economically, we have so many facts and figures in media. What sort of change you want to see from the media when it comes to disseminating information of the economics or the field of finance?
Media persons should understand basic economic information, economic ideas, economic data, what is the meaning of, just suppose, GDP. And there are so many interpretations of Nepal is in prosperity. Suppose any party in government, they call Nepal is in good position due to these figures. And opposition says Nepal is very bad position because there are so many, so there are so many confusions. So media persons should clearly disseminate what is the reality, and they have to understand the basic ideas. Suppose what is GDP, how to calculate it, what is the figure of remittance figure, what will happen with this remittance. Nepal is in good position or it is in bad position. Some says Nepal is in a very bad position, the remittance goes up, but other figures are very bad. So we have to analyze, we have to change. So I request media persons, you have to know what is the meaning of these figures, how to interpret it. You have to consult with some economic, those who are in economic issues, data analysts or something. So with this proper information, right information, just everything is going.
So you see there's a room for change in there as well. We're having a special dialogue on a special day, on to the fourth and the last final session of this discussion. Now, the theme of the last part is, does Nepal need a global voice? We do have some video statements from some of the recent change makers of Nepal. One is an entrepreneur, an academician who turned his academics interest to a thriving industry that became the first industry run or founded by a Nepali origin person to be enlisted in NASDAQ, the US stock exchange, Fuse Machines, and the other one, a pioneer who in fact engineered the wave of change in this country. There are many, but he's one of them. So let's hear from them first before we enter into the discussion.
A lot of times there's a lot happening in Nepal, like more recent events, but it is not covered in international news and given the same level of depth and information as we would like, especially for Nepali diaspora. They want more information, like more information direct from source and truth and so forth. But a lot of times international news may not cover it. So in those times, having a very authentic voice directly from Nepal is super important, because Nepali diaspora absolutely needs it. The world has changed, right? There's a lot of digital media, a lot of the news gets consumed in the platforms and so forth. So while there is risk of a lot of misinformation and so forth, having an authentic voice in a digital framework in many of these platforms and outside of these platforms is very important.
I think it is very important for there to be a national media that takes our country's voices internationally. Yes, people in the foreign countries, other countries, I think they do have a different idea about things that have happened in Nepal. So yeah, so because of this misinformation, it is very good that something comes directly out of the source, that being from the national media of the country. I think there needs to be an authentic media, yes, but it has to be pushed through online platforms too. I think digitally going is the way to go for the future. So I think, yes, so we have to be authentic, yes, and we also have to be focused to broadcast digitally as well.
Namaste, and congratulations to all viewers of Nepal Television World Channel, home and abroad. Today is a historic moment. This is the day Nepal starts speaking to the world in its own voice. The NTV World opens a window for global audiences to see Nepal through Nepali eyes, through stories told with understanding and passion. For many years, the world has known Nepal mostly through the eyes of outsiders, the foreigners who climb Everest, who visit Himalayas and other beauty spots. But Nepal is so much more. It's a birthplace of Lord Buddha, a crossroad of cultures, a very young democracy full of energy and ideas that grow in front of our eyes. It's a country facing climate change and devastating disasters, but it's a people who always stand up, always rebuild, always move forward. As a public service broadcaster, Nepal Television has a special mission: to inform, to connect, and to build understanding between its people and with the world. Quality storytelling in English can make Nepal's voice strong, credible, and respected throughout the world. I have worked closely with Nepal Television, and I have seen the incredible talent and passion of its team. They are storytellers who capture the real spirit of Nepal, its warmth, courage, and compassion. So to everyone at NTV World, congratulations. And to NTV World Channel, wishes to become a home of authentic stories, a bridge to global audiences, and a proud symbol of Nepal's voice to the world. Thank you.
So we heard from some of the change makers, the recent change makers that have hit headlines in the country in almost all the media. In this last part of the conversation, which is themed, does Nepal need a global voice? I start with Mr. Rana. Mr. Rana, has Nepal been seen and heard the way it should have been?
International media talks about a country is like when there's a war, when there's a major accident, and even with accidents, they only care about aircraft mishaps. They don't care about traffic accidents, okay? This is a fact. It's very easy to say, yes, our country needs to be talked about in the international media. Of course it does. But I mean, what are we going to talk about?
My question was, whatever has been heard and seen so far, should it be the same or could it have been different?
I think it's going to remain the same. Because as I just said, I mean, news agencies are only worried or concerned about something like an accident or a war. Okay? Look what happened when the palace massacre happened in Nepal. I mean, the whole world was talking about it. Okay? After a while, it's settled down and finished. Nepal, whether Nepal as a country existed or not, nobody knew. So this is what I mean. I mean, this is going to go on forever. Not just with Nepal, with every country. It's the same thing.
But with Nepal's own voice, will we be able to fill that gap or make a difference?
What are you going to talk about Nepal to make it interesting for an international audience?
Allow me to just show a recent example. For example, there were few foreign medias who recently said the movement, the entire Gen Z movement, was instigated by a Facebook ban, for example. And that was the narrative set almost across the world initially. While the ones who were on the streets themselves were saying, not because it's a Facebook ban, it's because that might have triggered it, but that's not the only agenda. So some sort of false narratives have been set at times by foreign media about our issues. In that void, can we have our own perspective?
Well, you just said it. I mean, the Gen Z movement was something that was interesting to the whole world. That is why there was so much coverage of it. Okay? Now, we're still in trouble.
Yeah.
We still haven't sorted things out here right. We're still in trouble. Nobody's paying attention to it. What are you going to do to emphasize that?
So you mean,
how are you going to do it?
You mean content would be pivotal in determining the success or impact that we would be able to create?
Internationalize the stuff.
Definitely, as you suggested, Mr. Rana, will try to globalize things.
That is it. That's exactly what globalization
maybe
is.
Starting from Nepal issues, and ultimately we'll reach the point that you have said, probably be like that, the foreign outlet. But initially, we're starting with our local voices to the global audience. Now, this is a common question to rest of the guests here. Does Nepal need a global voice?
Nepal should provide information about Nepal's scenario, suppose climate change, its biodiversity, and so many issues we have. It's a peace-loving country we are. And with in global forums, global forums, suppose BOAO, just I talked to you, BOAO, BIMSTEC. In these forums, we have to suppose what is ecotourism of Nepal, what is the potentialities of tourism sector. We have to disseminate our ideas, our voices in global forums.
Coming to Mrs. Vaidya.
So I think you are talking about like two aspects of the whole of this issue. What you're saying, the globalization of our voice. One is that, do we have content? How do we create the content? Again, it cannot be fabricated content. We need to start strengthening this basic fabric of our society. Education. Today, if I have to think of, while you were asking this question, which is the last news which I thought which was other than film glamour, which keeps coming up so much, whether you put on an Instagram or whatever, a Nobel Peace Prize, somebody who did a great invention, whether we broke the speed of light. Why is this coming to me just now as you're talking about? Because there was an achievement there. That achievement created a content which became worldwide news. One is we make ourselves so strong and have such large achievements that people want to talk about us. The other is, whether you mean that, whether how we will take our voice outside to the world is, yes, increase our network of dissemination of information, whether it is Nepal Television, who has offices, let's say, in a Doha or in America or whatever. That is a way of taking your daily news there. But if you want attention for the right reasons, we have to strengthen the basic fabric of a society, good governance, strong education, and a whole lot of such gamut.
Over to Dr. Adhikari, your say now.
I think yes. I mean, that's a very fundamental issue for us. We need to have our media presence internationally for two things. Firstly, we need to tell the world who we are. I mean, in terms of our language, our culture, our demography, our economy, international investment, foreign affairs, tourism, so many things. I mean, there are issues that we need to tell the world about, and also to respond to them through an international media outlet which is open 24 hours, and anybody who is interested to come to Nepal or form an impression about Nepal can immediately get back to. So that is the first concern. And secondly, we need to know that we need to make the country visible, because we are a small country. And because we are small, we have to compensate ourselves with things which make us big. And media, certainly, you say, Mr. Rana was talking about Al Jazeera. I mean, the value that Al Jazeera created for Qatar is open to everybody. And why we can't do it? In fact, we are on the most majestic part of the world. And whatever we have, is something which many people, many countries don't have at all. So, many people I have seen that they forget, they cannot, remember the word Himalaya, and they start saying Alps. You see, that is the significance, the identity of Nepal. So we have to sell it. Now, being small, we need to, speak aloud. We have geopolitical issues also. You see, the moment we start, for example, when there was, the royal carnage, you see, every country, every media outlet in the world had its own story, because we were not able to tell our story, right? We didn't speak aloud in a language that they can comprehend in. So they started fabricating news, and so assassination became a murder by the crown prince. So to this day, we don't know what happened, in fact. I mean, when Premadasa was killed, it became, an assassination. When Ziaul Haq was killed, it became an assassination, right? When Indira Gandhi was killed, you repeated the same word. It's simply because we didn't have our own voice.
Our narratives were being said by the outsiders.
So for the visibility, to speak to the world, we need to have media presence, and I would say not just global, but it should be in the best form possible. And then what Mr. Rana said, maybe we don't have enough stuff at present to speak out to the world, but then there are many issues in the world that could be that we can partner with and use the forum for protection of our own interest on international matters. Now that you have started doing it, congratulations. And now when you start doing, obviously this is a process of learning also, we'll get to a point where we can compete with many others. So resource is not a problem, it's the attitude which is a problem, I think.
Fantastic. Thank you so much to all our guests and panelists. Definitely consider this as a move from Public Service Broadcasting Nepal as the first stone, marker stone of what Mr. Rana envisioned. This could be, the potential could be up to that level in future. Thank you so much for your value time, thoughts,
thank you,
and your perspectives.
I'm sure this is going to extend beyond this dialogue show, the special dialogue session here, as we mark the launch of NTV World tonight. And we made an attempt to offer you different varying lenses, varying perspectives on the very issue of change that we are living at the moment. And this is happening on the night of the launch of NTV World, which is PSP and Nepal Television's international wing, where we intend to share our very own perspectives on our very own stories and happenings to the globe.
To the audience, stay tuned as NTV World comes to you in all different forms in the digital market as well as the traditional one. Thank you so much for being part of this.
Thank you.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu, public service broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World. Facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal.
Telling stories that endure across centuries. Where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World.
Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands.
Reporting for public service broadcasting.
Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
बाबु गुरुङको पारिवारिक पृष्ठभूमि सामान्य छ। मुस्ताङको फरक र सांस्कृतिक जीवनशैलीमा हुर्किएका उनको बाल्यकाल सामान्य बित्यो।
हामी यही आँगनमा खेलेर हुर्क्यौँ अनि हामी गुम्बोबाट फर्केर आउँदा पनि यही ढोका तरेर यहाँबाट आमाले बोलाउँथ्यो त्यस्तै त्यो बल्यकाल यस्तै गर्दै बित्नु भएको थियो अनि यही ढोकाको अगाडि अघि म हिँडेको बाटोमै हाम्रो आमाको साथीहरू चाहिँ दिउँसोको 1-2 बजे पछि त्यहीँ बस्नुहुन्थ्यो त्यो गरेर कुरा गर्दै बस्नु उहाँहरूले चाहिँ अनि मेरो नाम बाबु राख्नु भएको
उनको परिवार उनलाई कुनै गुम्बाको लामा बनाउन चाहन्थ्यो तर उनको रुचि अन्तै थियो
पहिले चाहिँ मुस्ताङ राजाको चाहिँ नेम अनुसार चाहिँ ठुलो छोरालाई चाहिँ घर हेर्नुपर्ने र अनि माइलो छोराले चाहिँ गुम्बा जानुपर्ने नियम भएको कारणले चाहिँ म लामा मेरो फ्यामिलीले चाहिँ लामामा पठाउनु भएको म 20 वर्ष लामा बसेँ त्यसपछि चाहिँ मेरो इन्ट्रेस्ट चाहिँ कल्चर र वाइल्ड लाइफ प्रतिको त्यो रिलेसनको बारेमा भयो अनि त्यसपछि चाहिँ मैले सिटिजन साइन्टिस्टको रूपमा आफ्नो काम त्यो स्टडीहरू आफै गर्दै गएँ
मुस्ताङको यो सौन्दर्य र भविष्यको लागि आफ्नो तर्फबाट केही गर्ने सोच भएका बाबु आफ्नो पथमा जति अडिग छन् त्यति नै सन्तुष्ट पनि जो अहिले रात दिन यसरी हिम चितुवाको खोज र संरक्षणमा लागिरहन्छन् र उनी संसारलाई मुस्ताङ चिनाउने ट्रेकिङ गाइड पनि हुन्
एकचोटि मैले स्नो लेपर्ड भेट्दा मैले 12 घण्टासँगै बिताएको थिएँ 12 घण्टासँगै बिताएको थिएँ ऊ पारी डाँडामा बस्यो म यता वारी डाँडामा बसेर चाहिँ यस्तै हेड एन्ड सिक खेलेको जस्तै भएर बसिरहेको थियो ऊ पनि सुतिरहेको थियो म पनि आफ्नै क्यामेरा छेउमा राखेर चाहिँ कहिले फोटो खिच्न मन लाग्यो फोटो खिच्यो त्यसपछि चाहिँ उसलाई हेरिरहेर चाहिँ त्यो गरी उसको हेबिटहरू चाहिँ चिनिरहेको भन्छ त्यो इन्सिडेन्टहरू चाहिँ मलाई बेस्ट लाग्छ
पहिला हिमचित एकछिन भने चाहिँ ऊ फोटो हुन नपाएर नि किनलो क्यामेरा हुन नपाएर गाह्रो भयो अनि उसको दाइ चाहिँ विदेश गयो उसले धोका गाँथे उसले क्यामेरा पठायो अनि उसले खिच्यो अनि आमा दा जहाँ गयो भने टिभी जहाँ गयो भने नडाँटो हामी साथीसित मिलाएर बसा अनि काम गऱ्यो भने राम्रो हुन्छ यिनीहरूको बुवाको काम राम्रो भाषा बाबु अनि म अलि ढिलो छ बच्चाहरूले धोका दिँदैन यिन हामी धोका बच्चाहरू त नदुखे बुवाले उर्कायो आमाले पनि धोका गरेन बच्चाले पनि धोका गरेन बुवा राम्रो भएर अनि अलि बाँकी नभयो
नेपालको गण्डकी प्रदेशमा पर्ने मुस्ताङ जिल्ला चीनसँग जोडिएको ठाउँ हो यो सरदर 4023 मिटर उचाइमा छ ठूला ठूला रुख बिरुवा विहीन पहाडहरू र यहाँको फरक संस्कृति नै मुस्ताङका विशेषता हुन् बाबु गुरुङ यही मुस्ताङका छोरा हुन् जसले मुस्ताङमा आफ्नो र मुस्ताङको भविष्य उज्यालो देखेका छन्
मुस्ताङको एउटा मेन फेसेस भनेको के हो भनेको युवाहरू विदेशी मेन प्रब्लम किनकि म जस्तो अहिले यङ केटाहरूले चाहिँ यता बस्नै उनीहरूलाई चाहिँ गाह्रो मान्छ किनकि उनीहरूले चाहिँ यता कुनै त्यो नै छैन रोजगारी नै छैन तर मलाई विश्वास छ यो वाइल्ड लाइफलाई चाहिँ यो मुस्ताङमा चाहिँ विन्टरको 1 महिना भए पनि उनीहरूले रोजगारी दिन्छ त्यो रोजगारी पनि त्यति त्यो नभइकन उनीहरूले चाहिँ सिक्न पाउनेदेखि लिएर उनीहरूले रोजगारी दिन्छ भन्ने मलाई विश्वास छ अनि यो हुन्छ तर म गरेरै छोड्छु भन्ने मेरो अब डिटर्मिनेसन जस्तै म गरिरहेको छु
मुस्ताङ संसारभरिका पर्यटकको गन्तव्य बन्दै गएको छ जसको एक उदाहरण यी विदेशी नागरिक
I'm really happy to be here and me and my wife we travel a lot and normally we decide to go to countries where we can combine nature, culture, people, and I like to take photographs. It's my hobby, and therefore, for me, is this destination perfect.
चौधौं शताब्दीमा बनेको ऐतिहासिक लोमान्ताङ दरबार र यसका भग्नावशेषहरू च्याम्पो आनीझुमा लगायत पुराना ऐतिहासिक गुम्बाहरू प्रसिद्ध मुक्तिनाथ मन्दिर पितृको श्राद्ध गर्ने कालीगण्डकीको तीरमा रहेको कागबेनी मौलिक मार्फा गाउँ संसारलाई लोभ्याउने कलात्मक पहाडहरू यहाँको अद्वितीय मौलिक संस्कार र संस्कृति शान्त र मौलिक जीवनशैली हो यिनै हुन् मुस्ताङका परिचय तिब्बतको नजिकै हुनाले यहाँ प्राय तिब्बती संस्कृति मनाइन्छ भाषा पनि तिब्बती नै बोलिन्छ बौद्ध धर्म यहाँको मुख्य धर्म हो लोमान्ताङ उपत्यका यहाँको सदरमुकाम र सबैभन्दा ठूलो बस्ती भएको ठाउँ हो जुन एउटा पर्खालले घेरिएको छ यहाँ केही समय अघिसम्म मुस्ताङी राजाको आफ्नै शासन नियम र कानुन चल्थे हाल त्यो शासन नभए पनि यहाँका राजा र राज संस्थालाई मुस्ताङीहरू निकै श्रद्धा गर्छन् उत्पादनको हिसाबले मुस्ताङ स्याउको लागि प्रसिद्ध छ मुस्ताङ पुग्न काठमाडौँबाट कास्की जिल्लाको पोखरा पुग्नुपर्छ सुन्दर नगरी पोखराबाट हवाई जहाजमा सदरमुकाम जोमसोमसम्म पुगेर त्यहाँबाट मोटर यात्रा तय गरेर पनि लोमान्ताङ पुग्न सकिन्छ यसरी जाँदा पोखरादेखि जोमसोमसम्म हवाई जहाजमा 18 मिनेट लाग्छ अनि जोमसोमदेखि लोमान्ताङसम्म मोटरमा करिब 6 घण्टा लाग्छ पोखराबाट सिधै मोटरमा लोमान्ताङ जान पनि सकिन्छ यसरी जाँदा करिब 12 घण्टा लाग्छ
People simply observe and take pride in artists and their promotion of Malaysian culture internationally. But nobody cares how they struggle just to survive and maintain their sanity. The waves of stress that are constantly present and how it impedes their creative minds. The life of an artist is like an uneven curve. It never moves smoothly through a straight line. As an artist herself, Shima tries to make her life easy and its journey smooth sailing in a straight line. But this does not happen. After graduating with a bachelor's degree in art and design with a major in pottery and ceramics in 1982, Shima started her own business. She did not only do batik paintings on fabric and other soft materials, but also took part in painting, designing and production of batik garments. All these activities did not make her happy and she could not sustain herself financially. Then she decided to concentrate on paintings.
Things that you can comfort with, you can live with it. Because for the beginners, they have to find things and it's not easy to get all the materials. So first, you have to survive. Second stage, after you survive, you want to find yourself. There's a long way until that you become famous because of something in the painting itself. So it's comfort because it comes like it's not a day or a month or a year. It's going to be continued, maybe until you die.
Shima has been concentrating her creative works on paintings for nearly 2 decades. Her artworks mainly reflect traditional houses as imagery. She wants to spill the colors of her childhood experiences onto the canvas consciously.
This is from the experience before that you have. You see things. You see something that inspired you, that is the one that comfortable with, so that you just go on with that subject. Like a house is something that we experienced before. We live in those kind of houses, traditional, that which is in our childhood. We grown up there, and it's in the memory because we don't have it anymore.
Within the imagery of traditional houses, Shima does not only want to have nostalgic gratification, but also represent Malaysian multiculturalism in her paintings.
If you are Malay, there was the influences in the houses. If you are Indian, there were some images that shows. So this is what all about Malaysian multicultural. We have huge things to explore. It's something about our country. It's something about Malaysia in a way. It's very disappointed.
Like Shima, 21 other artists have been working in the artist colony. The colony is a traditional village-based art center where artists from different fields and expertise do their works. There are 11 government-subsidized wakafs, open-air wooden shelters built for artists within the craft complex in Kuala Lumpur. In the village, artists do not only create artworks, but also conduct various educational activities, such as teaching, training, and observational programs.
That's how you get the color, okay? Wherever you do, Just a comment on my part.
Every artist working in this village has their own style and creativity. They have been working with different mediums, forms, and compositions. Their different artistic talents create their distinct identity. However, they have a common practice of promoting the Malaysian way of living and culture.
I'm the one who did the painting about art, Malaysian naive art, to promote Malaysia, especially when the tourists come over here, what they can bring back to visit Malaysia while they are on tourism. So to present my country, so they know what is Malaysia they have.
My subject is more to flora and fauna, and this is, as you can see here, this is more to semi-abstract artwork, and I'm really concentrate on the texture series, and this is considered my latest series.
It's my painting normally my environment. Normally my family like this. This my family, my son, my daughter look together. The title is together. That's mean well, I create a watercolor on a theme of the mangrove swamps of Malaysia. I travel from north to south just to record all the pictures, all the picturesque view of the mangrove. And back at home, I'll record it on my paper with watercolor.
A lot of Malaysian artists, they use a lot of images from surrounding, like historical buildings, like the traditional costume, something like that. So I think that show that Malaysian art scene, they have their own style.
Artists have their own particular perspectives and viewpoints to observe the surroundings and lives. They are born with certain natural gifts and talents. They also develop exceptionally critical senses. They do recreation of the reality onto canvases. Their artworks are like mirrors that reflect different dimensions of local reality. The tourists, however, prefer local motifs in the artworks.
It's quite interesting to see some modern art. This complex is very interesting because there's a lot of different types of art and craft.
This is very different, and I particularly like her use of colours in the repeated motifs that she's got on display here.
I very like the Malaysian art because this one is very colourful and sketch also very beautiful.
Although the artists have been contributing a lot to promote the Malaysian culture internationally, they are under the wave of extreme stress. They have been struggling with hard times just to survive.
Not enough income to survive, to get the sourcing, like selling the painting, to make you alive. That is the most important in their mind. Besides, they want to produce a good work.
Audience has to have to appreciate Malaysian art more.
Di Malaysia ni dari segi pasaran mungkin belum luas. To survive as an artist is quite tough at the moment now. It depends on the how you tackle the customer and how they like it your painting or not. That is the only way.
Struggle a lot to keep on survive and keep on doing your work, because many artists you can find, they do halfway.
The major buyers of Malaysian artworks are foreign visitors. However, due to severe global economic recession, the official statistics of the Malaysian Tourism Ministry show that the inflow of foreign tourists are very unpredictable. This has immensely affected the sale of artwork. artists have no choice but to bear the pain.
We have to think about to promote Malaysian art. Malaysian artists have to try to find the funding, so and from that way they can promote themselves. If we want to ask government to help us, in that way also can, but the government have a lot of things to think about, so artists should think their own way. I think like Malaysian government have to must start to collect artwork from the artists, like their government department. They have a lot of department. They have to start to buy artwork.
Artists like Shima are struggling against a dire situation to overcome. After investing their golden age in the field, artists are continuously creating their arts and seeking the support from society. Shima has taken these circumstances as a school of life. She has a strong commitment and beautiful dreams to be the best artist possible.
You have to sell the painting to survive, to get the money to buy the food or to pay any bills. But then when that problem is solved, or you get a way to solve the problem, I think it's going to be, you learn like in a school, but this is not a formal school. It's like a life school. I want to create something of your own brand, of your own mark in your country. You are not being comparing with other artists. That is the most that most artists wanted. But it's not going to be happen in one day.
Artists and artworks are an integral part of any society. Despite the extreme stress on their minds, they document the contemporary history of social reality. They also make many significant contributions to social transformation, critiquing evil elements and innovating new ideas. The life of an artist is never smooth like a straight line. However, one cannot imagine life without art.
Pakistan's parliament has voted to give Army Chief Field Marshal Asim Munir new powers and lifetime immunity from arrest and prosecution, a move that critics say paves the way towards autocracy. The 27th constitutional amendment, which was signed into a law on Thursday, will also make significant changes to the way the country's top courts operate. Those defending the changes say they provide clarity and administrative structure to the armed forces while helping to ease a backlog in the courts. Pakistan's military has long played a prominent role in the nuclear-armed country's politics, sometimes seizing power in coups and on other occasions pulling levers behind the scenes. Throughout its history, Pakistan has oscillated from more civilian autonomy to overt control under military leaders like General Pervez Musharraf and General Zia-ul-Haq. Analysts refer to the balance between civilian and military as hybrid rule. Some see the amendment as a sign that the balance is shifting in the military's favor. The latest amendment means that Munir, who has been Army Chief since November 2022, will now also oversee Pakistan's Navy and Air Force. His Field Marshal title and uniform are for life, and he will be given responsibilities and duties even after retirement determined by the President with the advice of the Prime Minister. The expectation is that this will give him a prominent role in public life as long as he is alive. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif meanwhile said that the changes are part of a broader reform agenda to ensure Pakistan's defense keeps pace with modern warfare requirements. 9 persons have been killed and 32 injured after a stockpile of confiscated explosives accidentally blew up at a Nogam police station in Srinagar of Kashmir in India. The explosion occurred late at Thursday night during an examination of the explosive material in the presence of police officials. Deputy Commissioner of Srinagar, Akshay Labru, confirmed the blast was accidental, adding the probe is ongoing. The police station suffered severe damages in the explosion, and adjacent buildings are also affected. The incident comes just days after a car blast killed several people in New Delhi in what the government has called a terror incident. Supporters of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party (BJP) are celebrating as his party-led alliance secured a record-breaking win in the northern state of Bihar. The BJP achieved a landslide in the state, with Modi's alliance winning 202 of the 243 seats. Modi says the result is not just a victory for his alliance, but for democracy itself. The polls were held after a controversial revision of list that the opposition alleged would exclude genuine voters and give BJP an edge, a charge both the party and election commission denied. Several exit polls had predicted a victory for the BJP's alliance, which includes Janata Dal United or JDU as a prominent partner. The two parties currently rule the state together, with JDU leader Nitish Kumar as the outgoing chief minister. Their main rival was a coalition of India's main Congress party, the regional Rashtriya Janata Dal (RJD), and several smaller parties. The BJP and several of its top leaders praised the result and thanked voters in Bihar. The opposition has not commented. The Bihar polls serve as a precursor to several other key states' elections to be held next year, like in West Bengal, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu, where the BJP is not in power and has struggled to make inroads. US President Donald Trump says he will take legal action against the BBC over how his speech was edited by Panorama after the corporation apologized but refused to compensate him. Speaking to reporters on board Air Force One on Friday, Trump revealed of suing the BBC for anywhere between $1 billion to $5 billion US, probably sometime next week. On Thursday, the BBC said the edit of the 6 January 2021 speech had unintentionally given a mistaken impression that President Trump had made a direct call for violent action and said it will not broadcast it again. The corporation apologized to the president but said it will not pay financial compensation. Trump said he has not raised the issue with UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, but he will call Starmer over the weekend.
I have not, but I'll call him. I'm going to call him over the weekend. He actually put a call into me. He's very embarrassed by it. You know, I don't know what percentage is owned by the country, but regardless if it's small or large or nothing, I can say this, the UK is very, very embarrassed by BBC, what they did.
A search of public court record databases confirmed that no lawsuit had been filed in federal or state court in Florida as of Friday evening. Indigenous groups staged a 90-minute blockade at the COP30 climate summit in Brazil, demanding greater representation and protection of their land. Hundreds of protesters, including the Munduruku community, carried banners reading "Our land is not for sale" and formed a human chain at the main entrance, forcing delegates to use a side gate. Their key demands included holding Amazon development projects, stronger legal recognition of indigenous territory, and rejecting deforestation carbon credits. Earlier in the week, clashes with security had already caused minor injuries. Indigenous leaders say their voices remain sidelined despite COP30 being billed as the Indigenous Peoples' COP. Authorities maintain that security protocols were followed and negotiations continued. The protest underlined the frustration over ongoing threats to the Amazon rainforest and the need for meaningful indigenous participation in climate agreements. A series of explosions rocked an industrial area in south of Buenos Aires in Argentina, triggering a massive fire. At least 22 people were hospitalized with injuries including smoke inhalation and trauma. Over 20 fire crews are battling the blaze, which has affected several factories including chemical and plastics plants. Nearby residents reported shattered windows and structural damages, prompting authorities to issue a red alert due to toxic fumes. The cause of the explosions remain under investigation, while emergency teams continue containment and rescue operations. Welcome to the future of AI as it starts to infiltrate the material world into the form of smart robots, self-driving cars, and other autonomous machines. Tech companies are pouring massive sums into physical AI, and Morgan Stanley predicts the world could have more than 1 billion humanoid robots by 2050. Japanese company Inactive is developing humanoid robots to wash dishes and do laundry in short-staffed Japanese care homes. Meanwhile, Chinese electrical vehicle maker XPeng is also pushing into physical AI, having recently unveiled its latest humanoid robot. These developments highlight a global race to merge advanced AI systems with robotics, aiming to address labor shortages and push automation into everyday life. Tech giants in the US and Europe are also investing heavily in physical AI, hoping to commercialize robots that can navigate complex, unstructured environments and interact safely with humans. When Pahani's Faris Saifis stepped onto the podium at Tehran's prestigious Wahadat Hall to lead the Tehran Symphony Orchestra, she delivered more than a remarkable musical performance as she made a history. The 42-year-old has become Iran's first female philharmonic conductor, a milestone in a country where women continue to face heavy restrictions in public, cultural, and professional life. Faris Saifi's appearance on the podium marked a powerful moment for Iranian women in the arts, signaling a rare breakthrough in a field traditionally dominated by men. Performing before a packed audience, her leadership of the orchestra was both a personal triumph and a symbolic victory for women seeking greater visibility in Iran's cultural landscape. Trained as a violinist, Faris Saifi has long been a prominent figure in classical musical circles. Her background includes serving as a concertmaster and performing internationally, experience that has helped establish her credibility on the global stage. Faris Saifi's achievement comes amid shifting cultural dynamics in Iran, where women continue to push for broader participation despite restrictive norms. Her ascent to the podium is seen as a part of a gradual yet meaningful expansion of opportunities for women in the arts.
रामदी मेरो गाउँको नाम धर्म संस्कृति सुन्दरता र शिक्षाको एउटा सुन्दर सम्मिश्रण पाइन्छ यहाँ जुन अरु कतै बिरलै पाइन्छ
My name is Paradha I'm Satka Champadaji. I'm Borvesh Prasad. I'm from Bhutan. Now I'm living in Ramli. I'm very happy to learn.
अति महत्त्वपूर्ण र पवित्र मानिने काली गण्डकी नदीको शीतल काखमा बसेको छ रामदी। स्याङ्जा र पाल्पा जिल्लाको केन्द्रमा पर्ने हुनाले रामदीबाट यी दुई जिल्लाका मनमोहक पहाडहरू र ससाना सुन्दर बस्तीहरू देख्न सकिन्छ। शालिग्राम नाम गरेको चम्किलो ढुङ्गा पाइने संसारकै एकमात्र काली गण्डकी नदीमा अंगिरा र वशिष्ठ नदीहरू मिसिदा बन्ने त्रिवेणीको विशेष महत्त्व छ। यस त्रिवेणीमा हरिबोधिनी एकादशी, शिवरात्रि र वैशाख संक्रान्तिका पावन अवसरमा लाग्ने विशेष मेलाहरूमा सामेल हुन पाइन्छ। रामदीमा काली गण्डकी नदी अद्भुत तरिकाले दक्षिणबाट उत्तर भई बहने उत्तर वाहिनी भएको हुँदा यस क्षेत्रको छुट्टै धार्मिक र आध्यात्मिक महत्त्व रहेको जानकारहरू बताउँछन्। यो क्षेत्र प्रसिद्ध ऋषिहरू वशिष्ठ, मार्कण्डेय, कपिलदेव र योगी नरहरिनाथको पवित्र तपोभूमि हो। योगी नरहरिनाथले 2042 सालमा गायत्री मन्त्रबाट विश्व शान्तिका लागि कोटी हवन गरेको यो ऐतिहासिक स्थलमा प्रसिद्ध ऋषि कपिलले सिद्धि प्राप्त गरेको सुनसिद्ध गुफाले आज पनि धार्मिक तथा रमणीय पर्यटकहरूको मन लोभ्याइरहेको छ। यस गुफाको सुरुङ साँघुरो भएकाले र अन्त्य पत्ता नलागेकाले यो थप आकर्षणको केन्द्र बनेको छ।
यहाँ एक स्टेप हुन्छ, त्यहाँ अर्को स्टेप हुन्छ, त्यहाँ तल्लो अझै अर्को ठुलो स्टेप 1500 जना अट्ने ठाउँ छ तल।
रामदीमा थुप्रै पर्यटकीय स्थलहरू छन्। यहाँ रहेका गायत्री मन्दिर, राधाकृष्ण मन्दिर, शिव मन्दिर आदि धार्मिक आस्थाका केन्द्रहरू हुन्। सँगै रहेको गौशालामा केही समय टहल्दा पर्यटकहरूलाई बेग्लै आनन्दको अनुभूति हुन्छ। रामदीको प्रमुख आकर्षण त्यहाँ रहेको राम नदी आश्रम हो। यो आश्रममा आध्यात्म, संस्कार, कला, शिक्षा र नयाँ पुस्ता बीचको आनन्दमय सहकार्य देख्न सकिन्छ। संस्कृत भाषामा दखल राखेका नयाँ पुस्ताको योग भजन कीर्तन मात्र नभई अंग्रेजी भाषामा पकड राख्ने र पुराना भजनदेखि नयाँ गीतहरूको गायनले आश्रम घुम्न जाने हर कोहीलाई चकित र मन्त्रमुग्ध बनाइदिन्छ। यसरी प्रकृतिको कोख र नदीहरूको काखमा बसेको रामदीमा हर कोहीलाई आकर्षित र अचम्मित गर्ने धेरै अद्भुत कुराहरू रहेका छन्।
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu, Public Service Broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World. Facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal.
Telling stories that endure across centuries. Where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World.
Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands.
Reporting for public service broadcasting.
Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour. This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
Among Nepal's many glacial lakes, some are at serious risk of bursting. Sudden bursts of these lakes due to the impact of climate change could result in massive loss of lives and property. This issue has already been discussed widely in the international community. Nepal itself has been drawing attention to the condition of these lakes and the harm they could cause. Even then, in the recent years, several glacial lakes of Nepal have already burst, resulting in heavy loss of life and property. Experts warn that this trend could continue to grow and have urged everyone to take preventive action. Just a week ago, in Koike rural municipality of Dolba district of the far western Nepal, flood mixed with derbs buried about 53 houses. Likewise, in mid-April 2025, heavy rainfall and flooding in Srinagar Bazar of Odanchuli municipality in Humla in the northwestern Nepal has caused massive destruction. Continuous rain has also damaged areas in Srinagar and nearby villages in Mugu's Khatiar rural municipality. Last year, it was confirmed that the flood in Thame River of Solukhumbu in the Khumbu region of the foothills of Mount Everest was caused by glacial lake outburst. Similarly, the unexpected flood in Rasua along Nepal-China border in the north on July 8, 2025, according to experts, was the result of glacial lake outburst. Recently, ICIMOD used satellite images and other research to identify 47 glacial lakes that could burst at any time, causing harm to human settlement in Nepal. The study shows that many of these high-risk lakes are located within Koshi River Basin. ICIMOD's General Director, Dr. Pema Gyamso, says that the climate change and rising temperature are the main reasons behind the bursting of these lakes. Gyamso adds that to stop such disasters, there must be strong investment in the early warning systems and emergency preparation.
Collaboration चाहिए, cooperation transboundary. अब हाम्रो 8 देश छ इन्दो-कोशी हिमालयमा, त्यसमा हामीले information exchange गर्ने, scientific cooperation. अब त्यसको लागि पनि investment चाहियो, funding चाहियो. त्यसको पनि problem छ. And हामीले अहिले इसिमोड चाहिँ यो politically neutral भएर हामीले चाहिँ के गर्दैछौँ भने साइन्टिस्टहरु र हाम्रो पोलिसी मेकरसँग लिएर डिस्कस चाहिँ हुँदैछ, तर हामीले अलिक यो भन्दा बेसी कोअपरेसन चाहिँ गर्दैछ, खास चाहिँ कोअर्डिनेसन कोअपरेसन हो. हामीले यो रिसोर्सेस र यो नपुगेर पनि कोअपरेसन छ भने अहिले भन्दा बेसी हामीले त्यो प्रिभेन्सन गर्न सक्छौँ डिसास्टरलाई.
Out of the 47 risky glacial lakes, 25 are located in China, 21 are inside Nepal, and 1 lies on the Indian side. Even if the lakes in China and India burst, the damage would still reach Nepal's settlement downstream. Records show that glacial lake outbursts have been causing destruction in Nepal for decades. In the past 24 years alone, 26 glacial lake outbursts have been recorded. Among them, 14 occurred inside Nepal itself. Research shows that Lower Boron Lake is one of the lakes posing highest risk that could affect the nearby settlements. Similarly, Chamlang, Inja, Lumding, and Tulangi glacial lakes are also at high risk. If large amount of stored water releases at once, the resulting flood could be even bigger than the recent ones in Roswa. When heavy snow or ice falls onto the glacial lake, it can displace the water, causing sudden floods downstream. Large blocks of ice or rock sliding onto the lake can push the water out, creating massive flood carrying mud, rocks, and deribs. Experts believe that Nepal still needs to do much more to reduce the impact of climate change. They say cooperation in the international community and greater national investment in prevention and protection are both essential.
बागमती प्रदेशका जिल्लाहरूमध्ये सिन्धुपाल्चोक पनि एक हिमाली जिल्ला हो। भौगोलिक रूपमा विकट भए तापनि ऐतिहासिक तथा पर्यटकीय रूपमा सिन्धुपाल्चोक जिल्लाको महत्त्वपूर्ण पहिचान रहेको छ। मेलम्चीदेखि 6 किलोमिटर उत्तर पूर्वको दूरीमा रहेको गोल्मा स्थान गोल्मा राजा र गोल्मा रानीको नामबाट रहन गएको किम्वदन्ती छ। परापूर्वकालको ईटा, ढुङ्गेधारा, सुन बनाउने ढुङ्गा देख्दा जो कोहीलाई पनि वास्तविकताको अनुभूति हुन्छ। गोल्मा स्थानबाट 2 किलोमिटरको दूरीमा अवस्थित सातधारा डुब्सेश्वर महादेव पवित्र धार्मिक स्थल हो, जसको महिमा प्रचार प्रसारको कमीले गाउँमै सीमित रहेको छ। परापूर्वकालदेखि साधु सन्तहरूको तपोभूमि रहेको डुब्सेश्वर महादेवमा माघे संक्रान्तिको दिनमा झाँक्रीहरूले ढ्याङ्ग्रो जति ठटायो उति नै ढुङ्गाबाट पानीको धारा आउने सत्यता देख्दा जो कोही पनि अचम्मित हुन्छन्। यसैगरी लामा ओडार सातधारा डुब्सेश्वर महादेवबाट 2 किलोमिटरको दूरीमा पर्दछ। प्राकृतिक छट्टाले सुन्दर मनोरम देखिने यस स्थान लामाहरूको लागि अत्यन्त महत्त्वपूर्ण रहेको छ। पर्यटकीय दृष्टिले त यसको सुन्दरता र महत्त्व बडो गजबको पाइन्छ। सिन्धुपाल्चोक जिल्लाकै विशाल खुलाचौर रहेको यो गुफा डाँडा पर्यटकलाई आनन्दित तुल्याउने एक प्रमुख स्थान हो, जहाँ सिन्धुपाल्चोक जिल्लाकै पहिलो विमानस्थल बनाउन सकिने सम्भावना रहेको छ। 77 वटै जिल्लाहरूको नाममा झण्डा गाडिएको यस ठाउँमा जिल्लाकै गौरवान्वित जलवायुको प्रतिमा रहेको छ। गुफा डाँडाबाट 1 घण्टाको पैदल यात्रापछि ओख्रेनी पुगिन्छ। सिन्धुपाल्चोक जिल्लाको इन्द्रावती गाउँपालिका वार्ड नम्बर 1 मा अवस्थित ओख्रेनी गाउँ सामुद्रिक सतहबाट 2253 मिटर उचाइमा रहेको छ। ओख्रेनीबाट पूर्वमा गौरी शंकर हिमाल, दक्षिणमा दक्षिणकाली मन्दिर, पश्चिममा गणेश हिमाल र उत्तरमा तीनचुले हिमाल रहेको छ। शेर्पा जातिहरूको बाहुल्यता भएको ओख्रेनीमा टिम्मुरको तेल तथा चौरीको छुर्पी स्थानीयहरूले उत्पादन गर्ने गरेका छन्। हलोको चलन अझै पनि देख्न सकिने सिन्धुपाल्चोक जिल्लाको पहाडको गर्भमा लुकेको अत्यन्त सुन्दर स्थान मध्ये ओख्रेनी एक हो। नेपालका पहाडी कुना कन्दराहरू आफ्नो सुन्दरता यसै गरी लुकाएर बसेका छन्। त्यो सुन्दरता उजागर गर्ने दायित्व तपाईँ हामीको हो। ओख्रेनीबाट 1 घण्टाको उकालो चढेपछि नौलिङ्गेश्वर महादेव पुगिन्छ। जनै पूर्णिमाको दिन यस स्थानमा वर्षेनी भव्य मेला लाग्ने गर्दछ। ग्याल्पो लोसारको दिन यस ठाउँमा शेर्पा समुदायले आफ्नो परम्परा अनुसार नाचगान गर्दछन्। नौलिङ्गेश्वर महादेव छेउमा रहेको प्राकृतिक ढिकी भनेर चिनिने यस स्थान हेर्दा ढुङ्गा खस्न लागेको जस्तो देखिन्छ। हातले पनि हलाउन सकिने यस ढुङ्गा विश्वासै गर्न नसकिने गरी अडिएर बसेको छ। यो प्राकृतिक रूपमा बनेको ढिकीलाई हल्लाएमा मानसिक शान्ति तथा शारीरिक प्रफुल्लता बढ्ने जनविश्वास रहेको छ। हिमालको छेउमा अवस्थित सिन्धुपाल्चोक जिल्लाको उत्तरी भेगमा रहेको अति सुन्दर, आकर्षक, रमणीय र प्राकृतिक सौन्दर्यले भरिभराउ ओख्रेनी गाउँको छानामा रहेको प्राकृतिक ढिकी पर्यटकहरूको पर्खाइमा रहेको।
प्राकृतिक, धार्मिक तथा सांस्कृतिक रूपमा धनी शैलुङमा तपाईलाई हार्दिक स्वागत छ। यहाँको भौगोलिक इतिहास निकै आश्चर्य लाग्दो छ। प्रथम बुद्ध साङ्गेले स्वर्गबाट झरेर प्रवचन दिनुभएकाले पहिले यस ठाउँलाई साङ्गेलुङ भनिन्थ्यो। पछि अपभ्रंश भएर शैलुङ भनिएको हो। यस ठाउँमा 5औं बुद्ध पद्मस्तम्भ बाएर लामो समय तपस्या गर्नुभएको किम्वदन्ती छ। हिन्दू धर्मको कहावत अनुसार पहिला ऋषि मुनिहरू यहाँ आएर तपस्या गर्थे। कलियुग सुरु भएपछि पाप देख्न नपरोस् भनेर प्रत्येक ठाउँमा ऋषिमुनि अलग भए र यी ठाउँमा थुम्का निस्किए। तपाईँ हामी अहिले यस्ता 108 भन्दा बढी अवलोकन गर्न सक्छौं। यदि तपाईँ यी थुम्कामा पुग्नुभयो भने त्यहाँबाट नेपालका 60% हिम श्रृङ्खला हेरेर आनन्द लिन सक्नुहुन्छ। महालङ्गुर, रोलबालिङ, अन्नपूर्ण हिम श्रृङ्खलाहरू तपाईलाई हेरेर चम्किनेछन्। शैलुङले सिजन नै पछि आफ्नो रूप फेर्छ। तपाईँ हिउँदमा आउनुभयो भने हिउँसित खेल्न सक्नुहुन्छ। चैत वैशाखमा आउनुभयो भने गुराँससित मेतेरी लगाउन सक्नुहुन्छ। शैलुङमा तपाईँ 100 भन्दा बढी जडीबुटीको अध्ययन गर्न सक्नुहुन्छ। चौरी डुलाउने प्रचलित ठाउँ पनि हो यो। यदि तपाईँ सावाखर्क भन्ने ठाउँमा बिहान पुग्नु भयो भने अवश्य चौरी गाई देख्न सक्नुहुन्छ। चौरी गोठमा पोसिलो चौरीको दुध पिउँदाको आनन्द अनि यहाँको छुर्पी तपाईँ अवश्य बिर्सनुहुन्न। लेकाली भेग भएकाले यहाँको अन्नबालीमा पनि विविधता देख्न सकिन्छ। 6 महिना लगाएर फल्ने यहाँका आलु मुडे लगिन्छ। यहाँबाट प्रचलित मुडेको आलु तपाईँ कहाँ आइपुग्छ। शैलुङको सांस्कृतिक विविधता पनि तपाईलाई रोचक लाग्ला। यहाँ बहुजातीय समाज छ। तामाङ, मगर, गुरुङ, छेत्री, बाहुन, थामी, नेवार आदिको मिश्रित समाजमा तपाईले मानिसहरू मिलेर गाउँ विकास गरेको देख्न सक्नुहुन्छ। अझै तपाईलाई साहसिक खेल मन पर्छ भने यहाँका गुफाहरूले तपाईलाई पर्खिरहेका छन्। यस्तो रोमाञ्चक ठाउँ काठमाडौँबाट 120 किलोमिटर दूरीमा मात्र छ। तपाईँ काठमाडौँबाट धुरीखेल, दोलालघाट, खाडी चौर, मुडे हुँदै दोलखाको यो रमणीय स्थल पुग्न सक्नुहुन्छ। खान बस्नका लागि यहाँका आधुनिक होटलहरू र हिँड्न डुल्नका लागि बनाइएका फराकिलो बाटोले तपाईलाई पर्खिरहेका छन्। सैलुङमा तपाईलाई फेरि पनि स्वागत छ।
मुन्डीमा नाना भाइसी रोगामी, मुन्डीमा नाना भाइसी रोगामी।
China pledges full support for Nepal's upcoming election. Ambassador Chen Song says Beijing will help ensure the polls are smooth. World leaders marks the 10th anniversary of Paris Agreement in UN Climate Change Conference COP30. Pressure mounts to move from promises to action. At least 9 killed and 32 others injured in a blast in Srinagar, Kashmir. Incident comes just days after car bomb in Delhi. US President Donald Trump announces plans to sue the BBC over its Panorama program. The legal action likely to seek between $1 billion to $5 billion. And Nepal Premier League Season 2 to kick off on Monday. Janakpur Bolts up against Kathmandu Gurkhas in the inaugural match. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai and this is NTV World News Hour. We're coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours. Across the globe, it's 4:15 p.m. in London, 1:15 a.m. in Tokyo and 3:15 a.m. in Sydney. And now the news in detail. Nepal has seen a surge in voter registration ahead of the March 5, 2026 general election. Authorities report over 281,000 new voters since the election announcement, following a change allowing registration with biometric national ID cards. The Election Commission has extended the deadline to November 21 after technical glitches slowed down online registration in some districts. Officials say the new system has cut paperwork and wait times, and registration continues nationwide. China has pledged full support for Nepal's upcoming general elections on March 5, 2026. Speaking in Kathmandu, Ambassador Chen Song said Beijing will assist in ensuring the polls are conducted smoothly and highlighted steady progress in trade, investment and Belt and Road projects. He also noted that China's new 5-year plan aligns with Nepal's development goals, including opening the Chinese market to Nepali agricultural goods. Chen reaffirmed Beijing's backing for Nepal's political stability and long-standing One China policy. The United Nations Climate Change Conference COP30 is underway in Belém, Brazil, as world leaders mark the 10th anniversary of Paris Agreement. Delegates are facing mounting pressure to move from promises to action as global warming continues to threaten vulnerable regions. Frontline countries like Nepal are urging urgent climate finance, including grant-based support for adaptation and protection of mountains and forests. Negotiators are focusing on equity, transparency and measurable outcomes to tackle the escalating climate crisis. In Srinagar, Kashmir, 9 people have died and 32 others injured after a stockpile of confiscated explosives detonated at Naugam police station late last night. Officials say the blast occurred around 11:20 p.m. during handling of the materials, causing severe damage to the station and nearby buildings. Authorities are investigating while emergency teams continue to assist the injured. This comes just days after a car bomb in Delhi, raising fresh security concerns across India. US President Donald Trump has announced plans to sue the BBC over its Panorama program, which he says misrepresented his January 6, 2021 speech. Speaking on Air Force One, Trump said the legal action could seek between $1 to $5 billion. The BBC has apologized, acknowledging the edit gave the mistaken impression Trump called for violence, but it refused to offer financial compensation, saying the program will not be rebroadcast. Nepal's biggest cricket tournament, the Nepal Premier League, begins this Monday at TU Cricket Ground, Kirtipur. The second edition will feature top national and international players with day-night matches under newly installed floodlights for the first time. 8 franchises, including defending champions Janakpur Bulls, will compete in 32 matches, with the opening game against Kathmandu Gurkhas at 4 p.m. Matches will be broadcast internationally on Star Sports and streamed digitally via Dish Home Go. We'll take a short break here. After the break, more news from Nepal and around the world. Stay with us. You're watching NTV World. This is News Hour. Welcome back. Nepal's election authorities say more than 281,000 new voters have registered since the announcement of the next general election scheduled for March 5, 2026. The surge follows a major change in the registration system. Citizens can now enroll using their national identity cards, which carry biometric data, including photographs and fingerprints. Officials say the new process has significantly reduced paperwork and wait times, prompting a sharp rise in online applications nationwide. Prime Minister Sushila Karki has urged the Election Commission to extend the registration deadline, citing overwhelming public interest and technical bottlenecks in several districts. The Commission has now pushed the deadline to November 21. Election officials acknowledged that heavy online traffic caused intermittent service failures in some areas. They say additional technical support has been deployed to ensure uninterrupted access for new voters. As of November 15, more than 50,000 men, 30,000 women and 4 others have registered using national ID cards. This has brought total new registrations to 281,129 since the election date was declared. Voter enrollment continues nationwide. Political tensions are escalating in Nepal's Madhya province following the controversial appointment of UML leader Saroj Kumar Yadav as Chief Minister, a move strongly opposed by opposition parties and now under review by the Supreme Court. The crisis intensified today when Deputy Speaker Babita Rao Ishar convened an assembly session in the courtyard after a request from Nepali Congress. Raut Ishar also warned that the assembly's operations were being hampered due to absence of staff, further complicating governance in the province. Earlier, protests erupted as 7 parties rallied against Speaker Mandal, who had expelled 5 lawmakers for repeated absence. The opposition coalition, including leaders like Ram Ashish Yadav of JSP Nepal, condemned Yadav's appointment as unconstitutional, highlighting that he had taken the oath at a hotel rather than in the assembly, which they say undermines democratic norms. In an attempt to resolve the deadlock, province head Dr. Surendra Labs called for a cross-party meeting to mediate the situation. The scenario remains tense, with opposition parties refusing to engage, while the current chief minister consolidates power, leaving Madhya province at a critical crossroads. Nepal is pressing forward on its democratic path, Prime Minister Sushila Karki has said. Speaking in Kathmandu at an event marking 65 years of diplomatic ties with Australia, Prime Minister Karki highlighted the government's commitment to accountable, transparent and corruption-free governance, reflecting the aspirations of Nepal's youth movements. She confirmed the government is focused on preparations for Nepal's general elections set for 5th of March 2026. The Prime Minister also underscored the long-standing partnership and shared democratic values between Nepal and Australia, extending warm wishes to the Australian people. Australian Ambassador Leanne Johnston reaffirmed her country's support for Nepal's democratic and development journey. Nepal and Australia first established formal diplomatic relations on February 15, 1960. Nepal's Minister for Communication and Information Technology, Jagdish Kharel, has returned home after representing Nepal at the Global ICT Leadership Forum in Seoul, South Korea. The forum, jointly organized by South Korea's Ministry of Science and ICT and the National Information Society Agency, brought together international leaders to discuss strategies and challenges in digital and AI transformation and explore global cooperation for a sustainable digital future. Minister Kharel, leading the Nepali delegation, participated in 2 key sessions highlighting Nepal's growing commitment to digital innovation and international collaboration. The delegation had departed for Seoul on November 11, signaling Nepal's active role in shaping regional and global ICT agendas. Hong Kong has officially lifted its long-standing transit visa requirement for Nepali passport holders, a rule that had been in place since 2005. The change comes into effect today, allowing Nepali travelers to transit through Hong Kong International Airport without a visa, providing they remain in the transit area. Nepal's Consulate General in Hong Kong says the move follows sustained diplomatic engagement and is expected to significantly ease travel for Nepalese flying to and from third countries via Hong Kong. In a statement, the consulate welcomed the decision as a commendable step that will boost mobility and further strengthen Nepal-Hong Kong ties. Now, this year marks the 10th anniversary of the Paris Agreement, and countries like Nepal are demanding urgent climate action. We talk about COP30 in our cover story of the day when we return from this break. Welcome back to NTV World News Hour. The UN Climate Change Conference COP30 is currently underway in Belém, Brazil, bringing together world leaders, negotiators and stakeholders to tackle the escalating climate crisis. This year's conference is being closely watched as it coincides with the 10th anniversary of the Paris Agreement, with the world still struggling to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Countries on the front line of climate impacts, like Nepal, are calling for urgent action on climate finance, including predictable grant-based funding for adaptation and loss and damage, as well as measures to protect vulnerable ecosystems such as mountains and forests. What sets this COP apart is the heightened urgency, recent extreme weather events, rising losses and slow progress on climate commitments that have created pressure for tangible action rather than long-term pledges. Delegates are expected to move from discussion to implementation with a strong focus on equity, transparency and measurable outcomes. At COP30, indigenous representatives from Brazil and around the world have spotlighted the urgent need for land demarcation, protection of biodiversity and meaningful participation in climate negotiations, a message that resonates strongly with Nepal's own indigenous communities. Delegates emphasize that clearly defined indigenous territories are crucial to protect communities from illegal mining, deforestation and extractive industries. Though indigenous peoples comprise a small fraction of the global population, they are responsible for stewarding a significant portion of the world's biodiversity, highlighting their vital role in climate solutions.
To be able to exercise our rights as protectors.
For Nepal, where indigenous groups and local communities are deeply tied to forests, river and fragile mountain ecosystems, these discussions underscore the importance of securing land rights, preserving biodiversity and ensuring indigenous voices are included in climate decision-making. COP30's global dialogue provides a timely backdrop as Nepal advances its own agenda on climate adaptation, community-led conservation and sustainable development. Earlier, I talked to Dr. Maheshwar Dhakal, Senior Joint Secretary at the Ministry of Forest and Environment, who is leading the Nepali delegation at COP. Here are excerpts of the conversation.
Nepal is a mountainous and landlocked country. The delegates are pushing the mountain agenda in COP30 with special recognitions to the countries like Nepal, where we are suffering the most despite our least carbon emissions. And the climate finance should be more predictable and accessible and affordable. It means the public financing is our priority. Nepal is asking to the developed countries who are emitted carbon most, but we developing countries, particularly landlocked and mountainous countries like Nepal, we are suffering the most. That's why we are asking more affordable, predictable and accessible climate finance in COP30. And our delegates asking for enhanced climate finance through different financial mechanisms. The Barbados implementation modality was launched on 10 November. It is a very positive indicator, but despite the fact, we are asking the parties to scale up the climate finance through Global Environment Facility, Green Climate Fund, Adaptation Fund, and other mechanisms. Major challenges to the COP30 is how to mobilize the maximum climate fund and allocate to the developing countries like Nepal. Developed countries are still feeling reluctant to provide sufficient funding because of international geopolitics. But despite the fact, developing countries like Nepal asking the developed countries to create a special and innovative financial mechanism so that we can justify to those who are the most vulnerable. Nepal is also asking to the parties to consider advisory opinion of International Court of Justice with a special recognition of climate justice to the countries like Nepal who are the most vulnerable.
Now, pigeon feeding is banned in many parts of the world. However, Nepal is one of the exceptions. Pigeon lovers are happy for this opportunity, as Virat Anupam brings you more.
feeding is banned in city like Venice and city-state like Singapore, and it's a topic of debate in Mumbai, India. However, if you are a fan of feeding pigeons, you don't have to worry here in Nepal. Almost all the religious and cultural heritage sites of Nepal have spaces for pigeon feeding. For example, in Kathmandu Valley's world-famous Patan Darbar Square, visitors can enjoy this practice. From children to adults, everyone loves feeding the pigeons. In Hinduism, as described in the Mahabharata, pigeons are seen as symbols of peace, harmony and prosperity. For many tourists from the Western world, feeding pigeon is viewed as an expression of kindness.
Well, I think it's a very kind and humane thing to do. I mean, I'm an animal lover, and specifically I'm a bird lover. I know pigeons cause a big mess. But on the other hand, this is one place where you can concentrate the pigeons. So if you feed them here, they stay here.
Not all nations permit pigeon feedings, and citizens of those countries are often unhappy with the ban. However, they are usually pleased to see pigeon feeding freely practiced in countries like Nepal.
He pretty much described kind of how we feel about it. One of the things we love in Nepal is you feed your dogs. All the restaurants feed your dogs. You feed your pigeons. We feed birds at our house. And we feed probably 40 birds in our yard.
Pigeon is also a part of regional symbol in South Asia. The emblem of SARC, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, includes pigeons, indicating regional embrace of the bird, not only on cultural terms, but also on diplomatic domain. With camera person Ram Thapa, Virat Anupam, reporting for Public Service Broadcasting, NTV World, Kathmandu.
In the Himalayan foothills of Nepal, a forgotten trekking route is coming back to life. As new roads and development reshape the famous Annapurna circuit, hikers are turning to a quieter alternative connecting Kaski and Myagdi districts. The trail winds through remote villages across the panoramic ridge of Pun Hill and down to Ghampas, a corridor untouched by motor roads. Local guides say this path preserves the classic Nepal trekking experience, the rhythm of village life, sweeping mountain vistas and the sense of being truly off the beaten track. Nearly 100 trekkers a day are now discovering this slower, more intimate way to explore the Himalayas, a reminder that some of the region's old world charm is still alive. Nepal's Rautis, a nomadic and highly marginalized community, are facing a steep population decline. A recent study by the National Human Rights Commission shows their numbers have dropped from 149 in 2018-19 to just 135 today. Over the past 6 years, 46 community members have died, while only 37 children were born. The report cites lack of state support, limited access to health care, malnutrition and inadequate reproductive services as key factors driving the decline. Human rights experts warn that without urgent intervention, the survival of the Rautis, a unique nomadic people, remains at risk, highlighting the broader challenges faced by marginalized communities in the country. Now in the hills of Syangja, Nepal, the Kumail community, traditionally known for making earthen pots, is struggling to preserve its ancestral craft. Once a reliable source of livelihood, the rise of plastic alternatives and lack of organized markets have put their centuries-old trade at risk. With only 36 people still speaking the Kumail language, the community faces threats not just to their livelihood, but to their identity and culture. Many young adults are migrating abroad for work, as making traditional clay pots is no longer economically viable. Advocates are urging the government to provide training, market access and support to preserve the craft, ensuring the Kumail's heritage and livelihoods survive for generations to come. Moving on, in Nepal's remote Dhading Hills, the marginalized Chepang community is watching a lifeline slip away. Broomgrass, locally known as amriso, which used to be a reliable source of income and deeply tied to their traditional way of life, is losing its market charm. While local governments encourage sustainable Amriso cultivation, the community says poor promotion and weak local markets are pushing their livelihoods to the edge. Our colleague Rosina Rai reports.
The marginalized Chepang community from the remote hills of Thading district in central Nepal are distressed as broom grass, known as Amriso, are no longer a charm for the buyers. Once a lucrative source of income, the broom produced from Amriso species of grass are overshadowed by a demand of plastic or other imported type of brooms from India and China. The natural broom was a dependable source of income for the families which relied its sale before. For the Chepang, an indigenous group traditionally living a semi-nomadic lifestyle rooted in foraging and hunting, Amriso has long been synonymous with livelihood and survival. There was a time when they sold the broom grass equivalent of $250 to $700 in one season. But this year, they appear less excited to go to the slopes of hills and harvest broom grass. In view of uplifting overall Chepang's lifestyle, the local level government in remote Thading has been assisting further sustainable development by encouraging them to grow broom grass in unused and barren hilly lands.
पहिला सर तपाईको लगभग 30-35 हजारको हाराहारी हुन्थ्यो अहिले तपाईको लगभग किन भने अरु कुचुली पेरेर हो कि न झाडुले पेरेर हो कि किन तपाईको अहिले चाहिँ कमै आछ के.
Meanwhile, Chepang community lament that lack of market and promotion of local production from local traders are one of the barriers for the good earning. Nepal imports brooms primarily from India and China, which are its largest suppliers. Other import sources include Switzerland, Malaysia, and Indonesia.
We'll take a quick recap of the headlines before looking into the international headliners. More than 281,000 new voters registered for the next general election. Election Commission pushes the deadline for registration to November 21. China pledges full support for Nepal's upcoming election. Ambassador Chen Song says Beijing will help ensure the polls are smooth. World leaders mark the 10th anniversary of Paris Agreement in UN Climate Change Conference COP30. Pressure mounts to move from promises to action. At least 9 killed and 32 others injured in a blast in Srinagar, Kashmir. Incident comes just days after car bomb in Delhi. US President Donald Trump announces plans to sue the BBC over its Panorama program. The legal action likely to sink between $1 to $5 billion. And Nepal Premier League Season 2 to kick off on Monday. Janakpur Bolts up against Kathmandu Gurkhas in the inaugural match. In a tragic accident in Srinagar, Kashmir, 9 people have been killed and 32 injured after a stockpile of confiscated explosives detonated at Nagaon police station. Officials say the blast occurred late at night, around 11:20 p.m. local time, while police were examining the explosive materials. The region's Director General of Police, Nalin Prabhat, described it as a very unfortunate mishap during handling. The explosion caused severe damage to the police station and nearby buildings, adding to the chaos. Authorities are investigating while emergency teams continue to aid the injured. This devastating incident comes just days after a car bomb in Delhi, which the Indian government has classified as a terror attack, highlighting ongoing security concerns in the region. In Pakistan, the parliament has passed a controversial constitutional amendment granting Army Chief Field Marshal Asim Munir expanded powers and lifetime immunity from arrest or prosecution. The 27th Amendment, signed into law on Thursday, also brings major changes to the functioning of the country's top courts, a move critics say edges Pakistan closer to autocracy. Supporters argue the changes provide administrative clarity for the armed forces and help ease judicial backlogs. But Pakistan's military has long wielded enormous influence, sometimes directly seizing power and at other times pulling strings behind the scenes. Under the new law, Munir, who has served as Army Chief since November 2022, will now oversee the Navy and Air Force, further consolidating military authority in the nuclear-armed nation. And back in India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party is celebrating a landslide victory in the northern state of Bihar. Modi's alliance captured 202 of the 243 seats, marking a record-breaking win in the state. Modi described the outcome as not just a win for his alliance, but a victory for democracy itself. The election came after a controversial revision of voter list, which opposition parties claimed excluded genuine voters to benefit the BJP, allegations the party and India's Election Commission have denied. Analysts say the Bihar results may set the stage for next year's key state elections in West Bengal, Kerala and Tamil Nadu, where BJP faces stronger resistance and has struggled to gain traction. Moving on, US President Donald Trump has announced plans to sue the BBC, claiming a Panorama program misrepresented his January 6, 2021 speech, suggesting he called for violence. Speaking from Air Force One, Trump said he could seek damages of $1 to $5 billion, describing the edit as egregious and accusing the broadcaster of changing his words. The BBC apologized, acknowledging the mistake, but refused financial compensation, stating the program will not be rebroadcast. Trump said legal action is necessary to prevent similar distortions in the future, comparing the incident to a previous dispute with CBS over a 60 Minutes interview. Media experts warn the case could cost the publicly funded broadcaster millions and raises questions about press responsibility, public funding, and reporting on polarizing political figures in an era of heightened scrutiny worldwide. China has completed the first phase of its 6G technology trials, developing more than 300 key technologies, the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology said. The country has been conducting 6G trials for 4 consecutive years, advancing research on system design and network architecture, according to Vice Minister Zhang Yunming. 6G, the next generation global digital network, is expected to integrate communications, sensing, computing, and intelligence. Its services will expand from people, machines, and goods to intelligent agents, with operations extending from ground networks to space-air ground coverage, enabling intelligent interconnection and rapid development of digital twins. Time now for sports update. Well, time now for business update.
Nepal's key trade points with China, Kirong and Tatopani, have remained partially closed for the past 4 months, leaving around 600 containers unable to enter the country. At Kirong and Rasua, only about 3. Nepal's key trade points with China, Kurong and Tatopani, have remained partially closed for the past 4 months, leaving around 600 containers unable to enter the country. At Kurong and Rasua, only about 300 of these containers have been cleared, while the remaining 300 are still stranded at the border. At Tatopani, approximately 300 containers are also stuck. These include goods for Dasai, winter clothing, shoes and fruits, which are yet to reach the market, causing significant losses for traders.
चिनिया पक्षले खासा पुनर्निर्माण भइरहेको अवस्था र त्यहाँका विविध उहाँहरूको आन्तरिक कार्य गर्दाखेरि हाम्रा नेपाली व्यापारीहरूको लोड भएका गाडीहरू चाहिँ अहिले पर्याप्त मात्रामा जति मात्रामा हाम्रो तातपानी डाइपोर्टमा छोड्नु पर्ने थियो त्यो छोडेको अवस्था छैन.
The disruption is largely due to floods in Asar and Ashoz, which damaged Kurong, and ongoing road and bridge repairs at Tatopani. The association notes that landslides during rainy and winter seasons further complicate full reopening. Traders report rising costs and delayed deliveries, leading to higher prices in the market. Authorities say efforts are ongoing to restore full operations at both border points. This week, Nepal's stock market, the NEPSE, slipped by 50 points, falling from 2,596.12 to 2,545.73, signaling a slowdown in trading activity. Trading volume also contracted, dropping from around $38 million last week to roughly $32.5 million on Thursday. Nepal Rashtra Bank has recently taken steps to boost the market, removing limits on share collateral loans and easing access for institutional investors. Yet, despite these measures, the market continues to struggle amid political uncertainty and low investor confidence. Experts say Nepal's market challenges reflect a broader global trend. Smaller emerging markets remain vulnerable to political instability, capital outflows and shifting investor sentiment, even as larger economies see relatively stable growth. Investors around the world watching emerging markets may see Nepal's stock performance as a reminder of the delicate balance between regulatory support, political stability and market confidence. Kathmandu Metropolitan City, the largest metropolis in Nepal, has partnered with Nepal Telecom, the country's state-owned telecommunications provider, to enhance city safety with a new CCTV network. The collaboration will leverage Nepal Telecom's optical fiber and fiber-to-the-home FTTH services to connect cameras across KMC's various districts or wards. The agreement includes regular maintenance, technical support and network expansion to ensure the system runs smoothly. KMC will manage the cameras and routers, while Nepal Telecom will provide high-speed bandwidth and keep the technology up to date. This initiative is part of a broader effort to make Kathmandu a smarter, safer city by integrating advanced technology and fostering cooperation between local government and telecom infrastructure. U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on Friday, retroactively lowering tariffs on several agricultural imports, including beef, coffee, bananas, and tomatoes. The move removes some goods from the higher reciprocal tariff system, which had applied rates between 10% and 50%. While the order reduces tariffs, it doesn't eliminate them entirely. Mexican tomatoes, for example, would still face a 17% tariff. The decision comes amid growing economic concerns as rising prices for products like coffee, which saw a 50% tariff on imports from Brazil, have strained consumers. The order also aligns with a new trade deal with Switzerland, lowering tariffs to 15%.
And with that, we move on to sports update. Nepal's most prestigious cricket tournament, Nepal Premier League, is set to begin this Monday at the TU Cricket Ground in Kirtipur. The second edition of the league will feature top national and international players, with organisers highlighting its role in the development of Nepali cricket. For the first time, matches will be played as day-night games under newly installed floodlights, while a renovated stadium with improved parapets is ready to host fans. 8 franchises, including defending champions Janakpur Bulls, runners-up Sudur Paschim Royals, and teams like Pokhara Avengers, Chitwan Rhinos and Kathmandu Gorkhas, will compete in a total of 32 matches. The opening match sees Janakpur Bulls face Kathmandu Gorkhas at 4 p.m. on Monday. Tickets range from 500 to 2,000 rupees, and organisers expect revenue to exceed 400 million rupees. Football icon Lionel Messi was at his brilliant best as Argentina beat Angola 2-0 in an international friendly in Luanda on Friday. Messi created the opener in the 44th minute, threading a pass to Lautaro Martinez, who finished past the goalkeeper. Later, around the 82nd minute, Martinez returned the favour, assisting Messi, who curled a low shot into the far corner to seal the win. The victory marked Messi's 115th international goal in 196 appearances as he continues his quest for a 6th World Cup next year. The match also celebrated Angola's 50th independence anniversary at the National Stadium in the capital. Now the weather details, first for Nepal and then from across the world. Before wrapping up, here's a look at the headlines once again. More than 281,000 new voters register for the next general election. Election Commission pushes the deadline for registration to November 21. China pledges full support for Nepal's upcoming election. Ambassador Chen Song says Beijing will help ensure the polls are smooth. World leaders mark the 10th anniversary of Paris Agreement in UN Climate Change Conference COP30. Pressure mounts to move from promises to action. At least 9 killed and 32 others injured in a blast in Srinagar, Kashmir. Incident comes just days after car bomb in Delhi. US President Donald Trump announces plans to sue the BBC over its Panorama program. The legal action likely to seek between $1 to $5 billion. And Nepal Premier League Season 2 to kick off on Monday. Janakpur Bulls up against Kathmandu Royal Gorkhas in inaugural match. That is all for NTV World News Hour. Do join us on our social media pages and also visit our official website nepaltelevision.com. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai. Thank you for joining. Good night.